By the agenda, so we're going to start off. We're going to start with Festival Foothills because she had hers in first, so she gets to go first. So Julie, we're ready for you.
All right, Julie.
The informal study session,
Woot
so
woot.
we're just ready to go. Yes. And just so you know, we are live streamed, so we have a huge audience on the other side of the cords. You may.
You can. You can.
So we can understand you, that'd be great.
I'm kidding.
We're social distanced,
Yeah,
Julie.
we're far enough away.
Okay, Governing Board President Malio, members of the Governing Board, and Dr. Nandini, it's my pleasure to be here to present the school improvement plan for Festival Foothills Elementary School. Right. Okay, and we're going to start with the Festival Foothills vision. We empower learners to grow, to love learning, and to strive for excellence. And the Festival Foothills mission is the Festival Foothills community cultivates lifelong learners who embrace academic challenges and strive for excellence. We celebrate perseverance and success. Through collaboration, we empower our students to grow into respectful, responsible citizens. We're going to start with our demographic data, and we have it for 5 years. And so our current enrollment, when this was submitted, was 186 students. We are 185 students enrolled. And we didn't have our attendance rate when we typically run it for the 2019-2020 because of the way attendance was different during the spring, so that is just left blank there. Our free and reduced lunch rate was 29% when this was submitted. The free and reduced lunch rate will be recalculated, and we will know what our current one is on September 22nd. And then for our special populations, our ELL student population is 2 students, and our special ed students are 30, and we have 4 gifted students.
Julie,
Yes.
so are the numbers down because people have chose to put them in other schools or because the population has changed?
Well, there's a
or-
variety of reasons. Typically, we usually have about 30 students that withdraw and move. When school ended, we had a list of students that were moving, like to other areas out of state, and that was about 30 students. And what has happened for the past couple of years, we will have about 30 move out, but we have about 30 to 40 move in. If you notice from 2018-19 to the 2019-20, we had a big jump in our enrollment. It's
Right.
kind of been steady until last school year, and then that's where
Right.
we saw that big increase. So we did have about that many. We did enroll quite a few students as well that are new because of the new houses being built. We've had some, that they withdrew because they chose to go to Wickenburg Virtual Academy. We've had some, I think we had 3 families that chose to do homeschooling because we have to select that when we do the withdrawal paperwork. We have some that went to other options, other alternatives that they were seeking. A lot of that is due to the COVID-19 situation and the concerns that families have. And so they're trying to select the best options for their family.
Okay.
So I know this week we had 2 return that had selected other options outside of our district, and they decided to return back to Wickenburg Unified. So
Julie, do you have the number that have elected to take WVA?
I believe Rose would have that
Okay.
exact number of how many
Okay.
came from Festival.
Just thinking each school.
With online
ask Rose in a
registration,
little while.
we didn't get to see their faces like we normally do, which is, it's been kind of hard because we've had new students come in, and so in doing Google Classroom walkthroughs, like I'm walking in and kind of meeting our new students online rather than in person. And so with online registration, that's one of the things that we've lost is that meeting of new families and knowing when families are leaving. And so when they enrolled with WVA, they could select that option and be transferred over to that school. And so it just transferred over seamlessly, but we did not know all of them. I know that some of them have transferred to WVA, but are planning to come back in January.
Okay.
So we do have some that are coming back.
Thank you.
Any other?
Thank you.
Okay. And then this is our demographics. We are predominantly Caucasian, approximately 76%. And our first standard is school culture. And Festival Foothills will create and communicate a shared culture of excellence. And we have 2 SMART goals here. The first one is 100% of the teachers at Festival Foothills will participate in grade level content-specific collaborative teams and in a vertical team on site. So we're continuing collaborating with both Hacienda and Vulture Peak. When we say grade level, that's our K-5 teachers. Content-specific is for our middle school teachers. And then we are also adding in just a vertical team at our school because we're all singletons, meaning 1 teacher per grade level. So we work in vertical teams like K2, 3, 5, and 6, 8, and then assign our special area teachers to different teams. So that's one of our SMART goals. And then the other one is 100% of the Festival Foothills teachers will engage in a book study regarding online instruction, addressing best instructional practices, student engagement, and how to build relationships. The picture of the book, it is down here in the corner. It's Distance Learning. It's by John Hattie, Frey, and I can't think of the third person. Fisher. And it's actually a book study that every teacher in the district was given a copy of this book. It obviously belongs to the school district, but they were given the opportunity to use this book. And so all of the teachers in this district are working on this. One of our things with school culture is we're trying to build a culture of collaboration. And so in doing so, with this book, we are doing a book study, but we go across all schools. And so each teacher is assigned to a team. So like team 1, for instance, has kindergarten and first grade teachers, some special area teachers, some support personnel, and they are on one team. And then there's the next team. And so each team has a variety, but it's still like a close grade level span. So our middle school teachers are not necessarily with kinder, but they are with other grade level teachers that are closer in their range. And then each time we meet, each month, a different teacher is facilitating the book discussion. So they are taking turns. So the first one we met in August, we assigned the facilitator, but then this upcoming one, they each selected the module that they wanted to present and share with their colleagues. So the next one coming up, they are doing 2 modules, so they will have 2 presenters for that at our next PD.
Are the teachers more comfortable now after having been through it in March and April and May? Is it getting easier, or are they finding better ways to communicate with the kids?
I think that it's a constant state of learning. I think one of the things that really supported our teachers and helped our teachers through this process is the collaboration that they have with their peers across the district. Because for a year and 3 quarters, we had been working with Project Momentum, and they had been meeting with the teachers across the district and planning together and working together collaboratively already in Google Hangouts every single week. So they already had that in place, that collaboration and that support from each other virtually. And so when COVID-19 came, it was comforting knowing that they were able to just log in like they always do. I found it exciting to watch them teaching each other, because they would present their screens. Like someone would say, well, how did you do that? Well, let me present my screen and show you how to go in and find this. And so they were working together, but they had already built relationships. They already had a schedule. And so now it was the process of collaborating for instruction. And so coming into it now, they're more comfortable with technology, I think, than they've ever been before. I don't know if I speak for everybody, but I think they're more comfortable, some more than others, just like any group. Some are masters of the craft technology-wise, and others are still learning. And they know more than they did probably last week, and they're just continuing to learn. And so this book, actually, it's talking about best instructional practices, but how do you do that in the virtual realm? So that is one of the things that we are working on.
Okay. Thank you.
And then we have our action steps. Like I had stated, we are going to continue to work with our collaborative teams, both grade level, content-wise, and then vertical. And then we have our norms. So the first time they met, they talk about what are our meeting norms, what are we going to be working on. They set goals. They have their agendas that they set each time. So they share that, and then as principals, we can go in and see any agenda and pop into any meeting. We're invited to every single meeting that they have. And then the book study is also on here. And then the second standard is curriculum and academics. And the vision is Festival Foothills will achieve excellence through creation and sustained implementation of a focused learning system. And this one, it's a lot of it is continuing what we had in place last year. And so it's 100% of teachers will utilize and revise, if needed, unwrapped documents for ELA and math standards. So they did work to unwrap all the standards, but it's a living and breathing document. So as they're planning, they should be bringing that back. If they notice there are some errors, they need to fix something. And also adding to that document, because there's places where you can add like your learning targets for the day that go with that standard. So that's a living document. So some of them might be done, but they are still in the process of revising and utilizing those to plan, which is our next bullet there. And then 100% of the teachers will participate in a collaborative learning team to enhance their instructional practices, participate in professional development, and then implement new learning into their classroom. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, as they're unwrapping the documents or revising the documents, is the distance learning coming into play there with the way that they're...
all of the lessons that teachers are providing for students, whether they're synchronous or asynchronous, are based off of the Arizona State standards, which are what the standards that they use. So all of their lessons should be using those standards and using those documents.
But as they're sort of updating how they're teaching, is the distance learning factoring into the lessons?
Their practices that they utilize you have to factor that in. For example, your engagement strategies are going to be a little bit different. It's kind of exciting to go in and watch the different teachers and how they engage students and elicit classroom participation.
Well,
So
and you
it's-
mentioned Project Momentum. Is that still an active part of what they're doing now?
We still have our Project Momentum grant. I believe it was in the minutes the last
Yeah.
board meeting. It was approved. So we did meet with Project Momentum, I believe, last week.
Okay.
So,
Thanks, Brian.
and then our action steps, it's still utilizing the documents and then creating and using DFAs. So some of the DFAs are done and completed. Some they're going back and revising as they're looking at them to make sure that the corrections are made if they're not worded correctly. I know there are some teams that they're looking and they feel like they need more district formative assessments, because sometimes when you give them and then you have to go back and reteach, you need to reassess, and so they would like to have more assessments. So some teams are working on that. And then we're continuing to engage in alignment of the standard, the learning target, and instruction. That is something that we had started last year. So we're going to continue that. We're working on engagement strategies and instructional practices, and then applying that. And those were our goals from last year, but when we met, we did a comprehensive needs assessment as a staff, and we talked about what do we feel our needs are to increase student achievement and improve our own practice. And they felt those were things that we still needed to continue working on. And so those are still there. Right now, with that book study, the Distance Learning Handbook, all of those things are being addressed of how do you do this in a virtual classroom. So right now our reality is virtual or it is asynchronous, and so we're looking at how do we do those practices in that environment. I know that our September PD, we are, as a district, we're taking the opportunity from Arizona State University, and they also are offering free professional development to teachers, and it's about virtual instruction. And so our topic is going to be best practices in the synchronous classroom. So we're continuing that throughout the year. But right now it's the virtual, because that's what we're living in. And then the last one there is just teachers will engage in a professional learning community or collaborative team on a regular basis and focusing on these questions. And these are the 4 questions from DeFore's work that you focus on in a professional learning community. Do you have any questions?
How's your staff doing? How do you think they're doing?
I think that they miss their classroom and they miss their students. I think that some of them are very nervous about coming back, just like some parents are nervous about having their students return. some of our staff, they're nervous about that. They would like to go back, but they're also looking to see, you know, they want to make sure that they're safe and their students are safe as well, so.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Julie, appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And our second presentation will be from Hacienda.
Good evening, members of the board. I don't know, do I need to click on something? Jeremy's got me. All right, good evening, members of the board, President Malio. It's nice to see people in 3D, I guess, yeah. This is my Bitmoji. Have you seen that whole Bitmoji craze? Yeah, so I got hooked over the weekend because, you know, when there's laundry to do, why not do a Bitmoji classroom? So I think you know that your principals, especially your K-8 principals, work really closely together. We collaborate. I think we are queens of collaboration, as Dr. Remedini is learning, so that you will find a lot of similarities in what's going on between our schools. Differences would be, let's see, which button to push. I got it? I didn't touch anything else. Looking at our district, or our school mission statement. So, Hacienda believes in a responsibility shared among students, staff, community, parents, and parents to develop opportunities for learners to achieve maximum academic and personal potential in our ever-changing world. And our mission statement is something that I try to bring back in front of our staff frequently. And I found this last year when we were going through the shutdown and everything, that this was really important to us, and going back to our mission and remembering that the teacher's not alone, the parent's not alone, our community is not alone. We're kind of all going through this together and figuring it out and learning every day of how to get through this as a community. Has definitely been challenging, but it's nice to have a mission statement that kind of goes with that. And we're all about our Coyote way in thinking, learning, and of course succeeding. All right. And a lot of this goes back to our belief systems, and again, it's what keeps us grounded and what moves us forward in the decisions that we make and things that we do every day, and putting our lessons together and working with families. Demographic data. So this is kind of a hard picture to look at for Hacienda. As you can see, our enrollment has taken a significant hit. We were going to have a little bit of a hit because we sent our last large group of students up to Vulture Peak going into 6th grade, but it certainly wasn't 70 kids total drop. So we're hoping that this is a temporary loss and we get a lot of our students back. And I know the question before was about where did they go? So a lot to our virtual academy and a lot to the Christian Academy, Morristown, Natterburg, homeschooling, lots of different options that families have had to make that very challenging choice in what's best for your family and what works for your family. So we all get it, and when we get those phone calls, it's a hard phone call to take, and lots of kids that we're missing, but every family has to do what's right for them, but hopefully they come back. Our free and reduced, this probably should be a blank number right now. It says 58%, but as we kind of dug into the numbers, we found that all the pieces weren't coming through correctly. So I think that's significantly higher from what we were playing with, but we'll see how that all comes out. We've got quite a few EL kiddos this year, 30 of them, and I think this was prior to our kindergartners being tested, so we have a good handful of kindergartners coming into that number as well. We're very thankful that we received a grant from the state that allows us to have additional support for those kiddos. So we're expecting to move those kids because I've got one of my best teachers on that job. Gifted kiddos, and of course we're school-wide Title I. We're looking really close. What we got, like a 56% Caucasian going on with our split here. A lot of Hispanic population. We have our ELs that come from there as well, and a few others. Okay, so this is where my staff was actually kind of sad last year because we were so ready for AZ Merit. I think we were the only school in the state of Arizona, maybe nationally, that was really, really truly sad. And that was because we had a fabulous team and highly focused and working their tails off and ready to look at some results. So I'm seriously sad teachers. Probably not sad students, but the teachers were anxious to see some of those results. So we're going to hang on to that and hope that we can all come back and get that going on for us again. So standard one, we're looking at our school culture, and our goals, we're looking at those collaborative teams again. We're participating in them. We're doing more than just participating. We're actively engaged and communicating together, sharing those ideas, just like Ms. Case shared. We have teachers, as we're getting into the whole virtual world, teachers are sharing their screens with each other and saying, I found this really great resource, you gotta try it. And even sending out emails to whole school saying, I just found this great resource, you gotta try it. We have a text group going between the teachers. I found a really great resource, you've got to try it. So they are sharing at the nth degree and coming up with great things and trying their best to be engaging and look at what are the best ways to share information in that virtual world that we're kind of muddling through. We are also, of course, participating in the distance learning book study and lots of great information. It's one of those things like, why weren't you in my life 6 months ago? But who knew we would be here, right? So yeah, so that's fun. It's like one of those things like you can't read it fast enough because we needed it yesterday. So our action steps, we've got our PLCs are happening. They're happening virtually. They're doing an amazing job with them. We've got our norms, we've got our agendas. The agendas are very tightly aligned with those standards that need to be covered, but also in Mrs. Webster, looking at what does that mean in the virtual world? So what is it, how did you get, this is a standard, we still have standards that we're teaching, but how are we going to get there? And then sharing that with those teams. And then moving into our book study, and again, very excited to get into all of that information and sharing across. We have the teachers grouped in grade level clusters so that they have more like conversations. So it's a K2 cluster of teachers. So Festival and Hacienda, but we have lots of things in common that we can figure out how to put the book chapters and information into action. All right, our next piece, back to our curriculum and academics, which at the end of the day is what we're all about. And we are working through those unwrapped documents, and we're revising our assessments and looking at how do you do some of these assessments in this virtual world and getting data that's worthwhile and bringing it back and having it impact the instruction. Those are key things. So again, teachers sharing ideas and figuring out something. So we've got our Galileo resource, but we're getting into those other parts of that resource that we didn't really have to use before, but now it's more imperative that we figure out how do you put that district formative assessment into the Galileo so that it can be streamlined through that technology. Okay. All right, so there we go again. All of our action steps based on going back to those unwrapped documents. Those unwrapped documents are so important. I was in the kindergarten meeting just this afternoon, and they're looking at those, and we've got, between Festival and myself, we've got 3 new to us kindergarten teachers, and they're looking at the pages that were built by people that they don't even know who they are, right? So the things that were left behind that usually get dusty in a closet. So they have to come out and they have to be living documents, and we have to make them real for these 3 new teachers to know this is what's important to Wickenburg, and this is what, this is the path we're going on. Now what are you bringing to the table to make it all come to life in a lesson? So really good things. And getting to our, we're all about our DeFore questions and really talking about what is it that we want students to learn and be able to do with that information. And it's tricky. You have to really think in a different way when you're getting into that virtual instruction of, yeah, so we assigned these things, but how does it come back to what is it we want them to know and be able to do? Because we don't want to do just busy work, right? So lots of great conversations going on with our kiddos. And these are 2 of my best buddies recently. They've got their special superhero masks and their, with the Grinch on the other one. So our kids, we've got the learner labs going on. We've got our kids, they're wearing their masks, they're adjusting, and obviously they're adorable and learning and all that kind of good stuff. So, any questions?
Chris, I've got one question.
Sure.
And this actually goes to Julie's report as well. On the book study, I noticed this year the book study goes from August to February. Last year went from August till December. What's the difference? Any ideas, or is that typo, or?
No, I think because we have it scheduled for August to December as what we have it scheduled. I had put February only because I don't know what's gonna happen.
We might be pulling out those next chapters and going, we need to revisit those.
We might have to revisit something, you don't know.
Right.
We just don't know.
Well, now I want to read the book. I'm not going to lie. It sounds like an awesome book.
It's a very easy to read book, especially when you need to know the information right now.
Yeah.
Well, as long as I know I have till February, I think I can probably do it too.
Sometime. Nobody's gonna wait. You can't wait till
I
February.
think we were all given different options in terms of
Right.
how we handled it too. So,
Yeah.
like at the high school, we broke up into teams, and they're doing it as, they're taking modules as groups, and then at our next PD, they're gonna be
Nice.
reporting back out of
Good
what
way.
that's about. So you can still go read it all, but we're
Right.
trying to speed through it just a
Right.
little bit at the high school, so that, again, because it's also important.
Information you needed yesterday.
And I would guess the teachers already read the whole thing anyway.
They
Yeah.
what?
I
Oh,
would guess
good.
they already read the whole thing anyway.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, yeah. And the first chapter was a good starting point was about their personal wellness. So this has been very stressful, and it puts every veteran teacher back to that beginning first year teaching. And it takes a lot more brain power and problem solving and looking at things from a different perspective. And I know that the teachers are working hard, and they're pretty exhausted. But so we have to continually lift them up and figure out how to lift their spirits and get
Well,
to
and we're
see
not
kids.
teachers, but I can tell you it's mentally draining for everyone
Absolutely.
in this situation. So to be
Absolutely.
a teacher in this situation,
Yes.
like that's like, you
Yes.
know, to the
I-
next level.
I had a moment with a teacher that she shared, like, this is so hard, Carissa, and I don't know how to do this. And she was asking me, and I said, oh, yes, this is so hard. You did not go to school, into education so that you could do this virtually.
Yeah.
I didn't do it to be a principal virtually. So it's all new for all of us. So we're together, and we just have to lift each other up and keep at it and make sure that.
I ran into a parent and they said
What?
one thing that the spring virtual taught them is they never wanted to homeschool their kids.
Yeah.
Well, and I've been working remotely for a lot of years,
Yeah.
and so I know how difficult it is to try to get your point across without being in person. So I can.
It's an
Understand.
adjustment, and it was one of those, baptism by fire moments of, yes, and this is what you're doing in a week. Make the most out of it. So definite learning curve. We've talked to a lot of parents calling in, and I'm thankful that they're calling us because we've been able to troubleshoot on so many things that that are simple to fix and be able to move kids forward in their learning.
How are we doing with the internet connections?
Most of the teachers are working from home, not all of them, but many of them are working from home and relying on their home internet at this point.
What about the kids?
For connectivity, or the ones that didn't have internet?
Well, I know for a while there, we kind of like overloaded. So I just wonder if that's all kind of straightened out now and everybody's connected that needs to be connected, or there's a
I
place
saw
to
the
go.
Cox guy in town last week, so I think we do have a community issue with broadband going on. And I know at Hacienda we've done a lot of staggering of schedule to try to alleviate that, at least with what we have control over. But I think it's bigger than the school. It's bigger than the district.
Yeah.
So I don't know a whole lot about it. I know that mine is out at home all the time. So.
We haven't ran into a lot of it. I mean, there's been an occasion where our teacher hasn't been able to get, into their class of kids, but we didn't stagger ours because we tried to follow a schedule, and we haven't experienced a lot of trouble based on what I've been hearing at least.
Oh, well, that's good.
From either, yeah.
Good.
We've had,
Jeremy's hiding now.
like 1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
He's the one that can
Yeah.
answer.
I understand what you're talking about.
One day it was shut
He's
down.
waving
He's
at you.
waving.
I have one question, Carissa.
Yes.
Anybody else?
No.
No, we were waving to
I was
Jeremy.
waving at Jeremy back there.
You mentioned that some of the teachers, get excited, they've come across some resources they've discovered or whatever. Just something that came to mind are those resources that they're using, have those been reviewed by like Debbie Hodgkiss, things like that?
So,
Or anybody from the district?
I think I understand what you're saying. So that would be more like curriculum resources. We're using our curriculum resources that we have.
Like the Galileo
Right.
resource,
Our
okay,
Galileo, our
okay.
Wonders, our Eureka, we have those resources. I'm talking about how do you use a whiteboard on on a Google Meet? Those
of
sort
the
of
internet.
apps and things that,
Okay.
so, how do you present these things, those tools?
Yeah, because I know there's
Yeah.
some programs out there,
Yeah.
anywhere, industrial-wide, anywhere, that a lot of people discover that they are so powerful at what they have behind the scenes and a lot of people don't discover those or know about them. And like you said, there's some of the Galileo resources you're discovering that are being used now that are a lot of help.
Right.
Okay.
Weren't needed before.
Well, good. Thanks, Chris. I
Oh, you're
appreciate it. Oh, I have to ask you, Chris, which wall is that saying on in your school? That's a perfect saying.
You know what, it's not on a wall, but it's been on a couple of my weekly updates.
Okay.
It's a nice one.
It is really nice. Next, we have Mrs. Moran, Vulture Peak Middle School.
Oh wait, can I have it to touch the clicker? Thank you. Otherwise I was gonna bring my spray bottle. Good evening, President Malio, members of the board, and Dr. Remondini. This is our school improvement plan. You will see a lot of continuity between Festival and Vulture Peak. We have so many common themes, and through Project Momentum really have built a solid connection of collaboration to help lead our teachers as well. Our teachers at Vulture Peak, we have to be reminded of what our vision is, because sometimes when we're working with middle schoolers that get a little lost in the shuffle and, well, if I tell my parent this, I can do this. And we really go back to that. We truly believe in our children, and that's that focus and that drive. And so we do reiterate oftentimes the need for our kids to have hope through this process, and that our desire is all of our kids will become graduates through this, and they won't give up and they won't create self-doubt in there, and that will continue to aspire every child to dream big. within this process. So we do talk a lot in our weekly staff meetings on our focus within that component. And our need to have a very clear vision. All of our rooms in the campus have our campus vision statement to drive us forward. And that was developed through our Project Momentum leadership team, and we look at it at the end of each year and go, did we meet it? Is it working? Is this still our guiding tenet? And so we want all of our children to always reach or exceed their full potential, and to remind kids that, hey, each day we want you to be a little better than the day before in that focus, and to help them become a lifelong learner, and to learn that using their talents and abilities will make them successful in anything, regardless of unexpected pandemics and challenges within there. And through this process, we've really learned to change our definition of what is a safe learning environment since they're at their homes, and how do we fix and change some of these different things. And now we're starting to ask that question, how do we help them problem solve when they want to give up? And how are we going to fix that on our campus when they return? So it's really changing a lot of our conversations and what we need to do to become active in learning within that component. Our demographics, we're being impacted right now. And it's the state of where all of education is. And our 6th grade enrollment is down. We've lost some kids. We have lost a lot of our 7th grade students. We got back 2 8th grade students last week, so that was exciting. And as of today, we are 183 kids. So we're impacted. We were supposed to be 214, whereas where we were at back end of July. So we've been impacted by all of this, but we can be impactful as a result of it too. Our ELL students, we have 13. 2 of those students are monolingual. And one of those monolinguals on her preliminary Galileo tested proficient. So we are so excited on some of the different things that we're doing on our school campus. So there is some really neat things going on in the middle of all of this. And I remind my staff, pay attention to the quiet. Because within the quiet, you'll really hear what's going on. You know, don't always pay attention to a negative, pay attention to what lives in that quiet. Those celebrations are hidden. And if we're not looking for it, we'll miss them in that. We are fortunate to be able to send several of our special education students to both Hacienda and the high school for educational support right now. And we're seeing them blossom in a lot of ways. So we've got a lot of neat positive things going on within this. Same common thread, our free and reduced numbers. We anticipate seeing a change in that after next week when new and current data comes out, and our district office has been doing wonderful behind the scenes work after we saw a mathematic concern. So they've done a great job. Our demographics, we're about 60% Caucasian. So we're about a 60-40 split. So we have a really nice mix of our students in here, and that did not change greatly between what we were enrolled in the past and those types of things. My leadership team helped me write the plan before we received the distance learning playbook. That's why it's not on the slide within that component. And so our school culture is we want to continue to create a shared culture of excellence. That first component is continuing to make sure that we have subject area, grade level, and vertical professional learning communities. This is becoming a foundation of our campus life, of what we believe will get all of our students to learn and grow in all forms of academics. My teachers wanted to increase parent communication. They wanted to help. How do we move our K-5 students and our K-5 parents who were used to Class Dojo into what is due? What is happening? And they wanted to do a proactive approach within there. And so we have a weekly grade level newsletter for parents and students to know what is going on within that component. We send out a text message through Blackboard Connect every Monday to remind families that it is under our news and events page to help keep parents in the loop of what's happening this week. It's not a reactive approach, a continual proactive approach. Because if we're going to help make learners, we've got to set them up for learning. We can't do it in the rears within that. Our PLC meetings occur with Julie Case's teachers. My art PLC meetings actually have the high school and the elementary schools in them as well. Julie and I's math teachers informed us that the time we had picked for them for their PLCs wasn't working and they needed a different time. So they really have taken on ownership and commitment and to buy-in as to what this PLC is for and what we need to do with it. So they're really gaining in confidence and strength as academic leaders in their classrooms of how are we taking every kid in our district to the next step. What are we doing in your classroom that's helping get your kids to have this? How did you teach this? What are you doing? What can I do different? Have you tried this? So it's really a powerful conversation when you join into their meetings. And it's goal-driven and it's success-driven. They do look at those unwrapped documents and they're trying to build in better revisions. As we have brought in the Edgenuity platform for several subject areas, going, okay, does this match the standard? Is this the best lesson, or do we need to use our IXL? Do we need to pull back from Eureka? What do we need to do to hit the standard the best? So our teachers are very focused within that component. My Project Momentum leadership team is meeting with me. They're setting that pace and they're giving me that feedback and insight as a classroom teacher. What's working, what's not? What kids are we worried about? How do we help improve the situation? Who do we need to go to home and visit? What can we do to constantly make everything better for our kids and our families within there? Our standard 2 of curriculum and academics, we want to continue to provide district curriculum and assessments with fidelity. How are we not giving up? How are we not changing what we've agreed to within those components? And so really utilizing and revising unwrapped documents for English, language arts, and math, now that we have an additional curricular source that is standards-based. How are we using that, and is it best? And do we know if it's best based upon the data that we have? And if we don't have data for it, then we better build it quick. So we're really trying to make sure that we have fidelity and commitment to the process. Same thing as Julie said, we're finding out reteaching, we need additional assessments. So where else can we pull them? And that's guiding a lot of their conversations within that component. Our collaborative teams create a campus connection and a campus buy-in and a powerful support system. And they really value the time we give them to complete and work through those goals. Action steps are continuing to guide everything. We meet as K-8 principals looking at the different components. We meet through our Project Momentum leadership teams. We meet with our teachers and our PLCs, and they are continuing to say these are the things that we need to do to make Vulture Peak successful. This is what we believe is going to continue to drive us forward, to continue to give us that academic jump on proficiency with state test, Galileo testing, and really value education and show the benefits of education and conversation. The Del 4 questions really driving home right now because we are wanting to know why aren't they learning this? Why aren't they turning this in, and how can we improve that process? How do we bridge the gap for a parent in need? How do we know that need? We can't blame, we agreed when we started Project Momentum we would never blame the kid. And we're holding true to that today. We aren't blaming anyone, we're finding fixes. We're meeting people where they are with the need that they have, because we can't respond if they didn't learn, if we don't know why they didn't respond. And so we're digging into that heart of that question, and it drives so many of our meetings each and every day within that. And then with our powerful part of our learning kits and activities that we're sending out to families every few weeks, that is designed to get all students to learn more about what they already know and to put things in action within those components. So we're taking a really different approach. It is exciting, and people feel tired at the end of the day, but they're tired for the right reason. Because they're tired because they're putting all of this effort into our beautiful children to make them better each and every day. That's my Project Momentum leadership team. Some of us pictured there from one of the last assemblies that we had prior to our COVID-19 of some of the fun. Building marshmallow towers and trying to find out what structure is going to maintain the most amount of mass. This is what's driving us to go back to get our kids back into classrooms to be successful.
You do need to fix Megan's name, though. I saw that last year and I forgot to say something.
Oh.
And then I just saw it again, her last name.
I forgot the R.
Yes.
Just saw that. Sorry, Meg. Sorry, Jeremy.
I have a question.
Yes.
You know, I know a lot of the kids were not very engaged at the end of the year last year because of not us saying, but because of what the state said about the grades and so on and so forth. So are they having a harder time re-engaging now that everything counts and these are real grades, and or are they pretty
Some of
anxious to
our-
just start learning something because it's been a long downtime?
Our kids want to be learning, but the same struggle that every house is having everywhere is who's helping them get through this, because when as a family doesn't know how to teach it, we've got pre-recorded lessons that are posted every day in all of our subjects to help families watch those videos to build in support. We have live sessions, we have small group sessions, we have one-on-one sessions during our office hours, but it's just really getting over that fatigue of, and I don't know how to help, I've tried to help them, but I don't feel successful, but I don't want to embarrass myself to the school and say, I don't get how to do this.
Mhm.
That's a really hard thing for our parents to do. And Mrs. Webster made reference to how hard it is with her working at home on a regular basis already and being well-versed in that, and then doing the instructional piece. It's hard on their families. And they're just really trying to create a lot of that balance. And so we have actually started building some partnerships and doing some home visits and getting to the heart of it, of how can we help? What is it that you really need? Because we know you can do it, we just gotta find that right thing
Right.
for success.
But are the kids themselves more engaged with now than they were at the end of the school year, or are they still struggling to get into this?
Some are struggling. Some that struggled in the traditional environment are thriving in this. And so we have a unique mix and shift of this component. So we've got some that teachers are going, I have never gotten this much work from this child in the last 2 years that I have gotten right now. They're doing amazing things. We're like, keep them going. Yay, we found that magic piece for that child. And so we're looking at, okay, well, which activities are they not doing, and what is that telling us about what's going on at home, what their real struggle is, what their cognitive problem is, and how do we help within that? I had a teacher text me on the way in, telling me that she spent a 35-minute window one-on-one with a student that she finally got to buy in to connect, and they did several lessons, and she goes, the child was beaming at the end. She goes, I just had to get them to have that confidence to come in and do this. So we're really seeing just quite a mix on it. It's odd, and there's not an exact percent that I can say, well, we were this percent this way, and others, and we do have some that will always struggle with motivation.
Well, I guess my concern is because they had that attitude at the end of the year because of things not counting. To start the year, to me, they would have already been 3 months behind somewhere because they really didn't engage in what was going on at the end of the year. So I would think starting, they would have a harder struggle to even begin the year.
Well, and I can speak for Hacienda on this because you were right, Carissa. They were prepared for your tests last year. Like my fourth grader, she was ready. And just because we've experienced obviously a change in how we're educating our children right now, my kids are ahead of where they should have been this year. But, you know, that doesn't speak for middle schoolers or all kids or anyone in general, but I can say I know just from my children that they were in a good place when we had to then become homeschool parents from March to May, which was hell on everybody. But yes, but my kids starting back this fall were in a good place.
Okay.
I don't have middle schoolers, so I can't speak to that, but
You know, there's a few students, regardless of what situation, they will have summer lag, and pushing them forward
Right.
happens within that. And what we have found is some of ours that would have summer lag, they are going more than ever before. Some are trying to figure out a new system to go, well, can I get out of doing? And when we give them those phone calls at different times and the different emails, and we don't stop until we get that answer and we dig into what is it that you need, it's changing all of that piece. And you know, our newsletters, we've got questions of the week designed to help our parents engage into this process of, hey, did you know Parent View is active and updated daily? Call the office, we'll get you logged in. You know, and we do have parents because of that have done that. We've got, you know, hey, we all want to come back to school, you know, on, you know, our target date of October 19th. Have you practiced wearing your mask? Have you practiced washing your hands the right way? So we've done a lot of different things. Call us. We'll tell you about what we need you to do. We'll help you through it. And we do have families that call and share that component. Our teachers are sending weekly progress reports, and they're putting notes on those progress reports saying, hey, if this looks scary, I need you to call me, because that 0 is temporary. It's not a permanent score. Everything's correctable. Everything's fixable. We are here to help your child learn. So we're seeing just that shift in the process.
Okay.
Well, thanks, Jen. Appreciate it.
I have a
Oh,
question.
sorry.
I had a question, and it's just, all of you had, in the back of your written report, the training schedule,
Yes.
but I didn't see any of the, like, PD days. Were they being held?
That is the training.
Friday once a month or something?
That's what you're looking
it's
at.
all the same.
That is it.
Yeah.
That chart
Yeah.
is all of our Friday PDs.
Oh,
The
okay,
actual
because
dates
it's
of them.
It just said Project Momentum or something like that.
Well, that's one of our main focus. That's
Okay.
one of our main drivers as we look at some of those different things within that partnership to make sure we've met those requirements.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
And they're all the same district-wide, right? Like, everybody's kind of together for
Yeah.
that still, even virtually together? Okay.
All right, so we're falling just a little bit behind, so we're gonna catch up and see how fast Mark can
Lots of
talk.
questions. I don't even have any kids.
Just
Catch us up, huh?
take your time.
Right up at the high school one. There it is.
Well, good evening, President Malio, members of the board, Dr. Remendini. I appreciate the opportunity to come in tonight and share our school improvement plan for the 2021 school year. As we get started, I must have went the wrong direction. Let's see here. Before we get started, I want to just kind of acknowledge the members of our school improvement team. Last year, the school improvement team was primarily made up of, if you think back to it, members of our science and math departments, and we had, I think, one member from outside of that area, maybe two. This year we've extended that. We have the same members that have returned that are returning to our school, but we've also added some new members. So our team this year is Renee Macias, Gary Hodgkiss, Lorraine Rothler, Sue Baker, and Colleen Peterson. We have Susan King and Jewel Turnbull that are with our elective courses. Then we have Brandy Watkins, who joined us this year from science. And then Clint and myself are also part of that team. And we meet monthly as a Project Momentum team, but we have extended beyond that. And I see them more as not just working with Project Momentum and the initiative there, but working as a unit. We're moving our school forward as a leadership team across our campus in all areas. So we bring a lot of information back through them in those monthly meetings, or through just virtual opportunities that we have to be able to send information to them. Our next meeting is actually tomorrow, and we are going to be meeting and talking some about one of our goals that we're going to be talking about this evening, and that's our culture and climate. So with that, our school improvement plan process started really last spring. When we went virtual and we were home, and we knew that testing had been canceled, we began meeting and looking at really the data, the detail that went into the entire school year. And one of the things that we had to do as a Title I school was complete our needs assessment, the comprehensive needs assessment for the state. And that provided a perfect opportunity for us to really take a deep look at who we were as a school, where we were doing well, and areas that we identified as we were struggling in. And so our school improvement team themselves did this comprehensive needs assessment, as well as our site council. So we had some community members and parents also that were part of that process. They filled out these surveys that we then analyzed and took a look at and determined where those needs were. And so the results of that really are what you're seeing here today. So from that and the results, we met over the summer as a team and created the school improvement plan that you're seeing here today. As we have had in past years, we have goals that are tied into our state testing. So in this particular case, our math and our ELA tests for grade 10. Last year, this goal was the same. It hasn't changed significantly from where it was before. And we'll talk a little bit more about those, but it really is about increasing proficiency and bringing kids that are in that lowest quartile up. But from our needs assessment, we also found that there were two areas that we felt we needed to focus on. One of them was increasing opportunities for students, parents, and community members to become engaged within our campus, on our school, or in our school or on our campus. The second one was to really work on developing climate and culture, which we started last year, and I felt like we got the ball really rolling with some of the things we were doing on our campus, and we're continuing to work on those, and as well as add some of those items, some new items into that, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But those are two new areas that we are focusing on this year. So during the 2019-20 school year, obviously learning was cut short, and state testing did not take place. So we are really continuing with our school improvement plan that we started last year, and we had initially thought we wanted to jump way out there and start to look at 10% gain potentially for this upcoming school year. And we still would love to see that gain. However, with the, again, situation that you spoke to last spring, and really how the expectations maybe were lowered, and the gap that we ran into the summer and then the start, we decided that we were going to scale back and shoot for something that we felt was obtainable, and that was hitting 5%, that 5% growth. The other piece to this is we're really comparing sort of apples to oranges when it comes to our the kids that we're comparing, because the kids that we have that last tested with us are juniors this year. So the only data that we have are for our juniors and seniors, and we're not even testing juniors and seniors with AZM2. We're testing sophomores. So we're looking at a total different group. So we're looking at improving as a school rather than improving at the individual student level in this particular case. So we have a SMART goal for ELA and math. They are very similar to one another, but our ELA goal for this year is that we are going to increase the percentage of students that are proficient in ELA on the AZM2 test by 5%. That's compared to, again, what we had 2 years ago. We're also going to, again, take those kids in that bottom quartile, and we want to decrease that number by 5 percentage points. Like those that came before, we're using Project Momentum as that vehicle to make these improvements, and DeFore's PLC process. So we're breaking down and looking at what is essential, what kids need to know. And although we've done this years before, this is a continual process. It's not something that ends, but it's a continuous process. We're continually looking at refining, assessing, determining what we need to do differently. And of course, the landscape changes somewhat too. So some things are different today than they were 2 years ago. So we're constantly looking at what we're doing, how we're doing it, and where kids are, where they struggle, how we're going to get them that support they need, and then it's just a continuous cycle where we're looking at that data, where kids are doing well, where they struggle, where we're going to improve, and that process starts all over again. So we're looking back at maps that we have, maps that may change slightly due to us being virtual. Looking at the lessons that are being taught. We're looking at assessments that they're given. We're looking at the results of those tests in these PLCs that we have. And you can see we have some completed tasks that we've done this quarter, but we also have some other tasks that we're looking at finishing, and that's really what are those common assessments that we have? What are we looking for kids to be able to do? And so what is essential? How are we going to know if they know it? And that's the test that we're giving them. One of the action steps that we have as a group is the history of testing has always been kind of big. You know, we're going to sit down for the period and we're going to step in the next hour and 10 minutes testing you on your knowledge of these math concepts. And then we step back and we look at this test that might look at a lot of different areas or a lot of different problems that could be this or similar problems. And we analyze those and determine where that need is. And we don't need to give kids an hour of testing to know where they're at. And so we're trying to work toward getting everything scaled back to where these formative assessments that we have are not quite as maybe tedious for a student to have to sit down and do, but also give the teacher, just in a short period of time in a classroom, something that they can step back to into these PLC meetings, assess, and then roll out the next day, rather than a big test that takes the entire weekend to grade, that then, you know, we're always a week or two out before we're really looking at that data. So one of our action steps has been to assess where kids are, but assess them in a smaller scale so that teachers have that data more quickly, kids have the data more quickly, and we're able to move forward, hopefully, more quickly as well. So our PLCs do meet weekly. One of our charges this year was to make sure that they met during the day. So we have common prep for ELA and math, but we also have some overlap in science where we have common content or courses that are taught. We worked to try to get that in those areas, but we have others that, again, are meeting as PLCs, as was mentioned. Our art are collaborating with some of the art teachers across the district, and so they have a PLC team, and that's the case with some other areas as well. We have other electives that are just getting together as elective groups, or a group of elective teachers. So in those PLC meetings, I really went through and already kind of shared what they do in those meetings, and that happens on a weekly basis where they're getting in there and looking at that data and talking about what they need to work on and where kids are with respect to learning. One of the areas that we're continuing to focus on with ELA, and that's across our campus, is the close read strategy. Last year was year 2 with this, and we're continuing to do this this year as well. And our goal is that in each content area, those teachers will, on a minimum of twice a semester, work close read strategies into their learning. So provide some sort of text that kids are reading and assessing and looking at. They're being able to break down that text, comprehend that text, maybe decipher terms based on what they're seeing in the text, but help them help support the reading development. Coming up here in September, we're going to have a PD similar to what we did last year, where we are going to be sharing, again, what does a close read strategy look like with all staff, but be more specific to the 5 new ones that we have this year, and providing them with that support. Forward. So in math, you can see we have a very similar, did I do something there? There we go. We have a very similar goal where we want to increase proficiency by 5% and take 5% from that lowest quartile. Again, like before, collaborative teams is the vehicle for that. We are meeting weekly. This is probably one of our most powerful teams right now. There's 5 of them that meet. They've been doing it as a group of 5 now for 3 years. And they amaze me when I go in and watch the things that they're doing, the work that they're doing, and having the conversations that they're having. They're a great group, and we're blessed to have all of our teachers. But this group is really leading the way when it comes to that, and we're able to utilize them with other teams also to share, the work that they're doing. So it's sort of a teaching of teachers to some extent. So, but they are again looking at curriculum, looking at assessments, developing interventions. Again, data is the driving force behind all of that. And one of the things that they're doing or using this year as a tool that was not in place last year is IXL Math. That's been something that's been used at the elementary and the middle school levels, but we have not used that at the high school. So we piloted it last spring when it became free, and they absolutely loved it. So they're using it in both ELA and math, and again, it's all levels. It goes up into calculus, I believe, even. So kids at any level have that option or opportunity to go in and access the standards, the content that goes along with those standards, practice, and then assessment, so they can get that, develop that understanding. We used this over the summer as well for some of what we did with CRBO, which is our credit recovery by objective. So a student that was missing certain standards throughout the year was able to have those standards assigned to them through IXL, go in, practice those, and then get assessed on that at the end to see if they've met those standards or filled those gaps. So professional development this year is focused again on our PLC practices, the curriculum, the meetings that they're going on, grading practices, utilizing Mulligan strategies, and school-wide reading and writing. Now, the other 2 areas that we were focusing on this year, again, that I mentioned, were climate and culture, and then we'll get to engagement here in a bit. So for the 2021 school year, our climate and culture goal is to develop a positive climate and culture on the WHS campus, and we're doing so through continuation of No Place for Hate. We found that to be an amazing vehicle toward creating a positive school culture. We found that through our data, when students were on campus, that incidents were down, bullying was down, fights were down, and there were nothing but positive results. And we feel like this was a part of that, and we want to continue forward with that. As you know, we were acknowledged as a No Place for Hate school last spring, and then also the Rookie of the Year. So a big part of our plan is to continue with that and to even improve upon where we were last year. We also want to create opportunities for students, staff, and community to engage across our campus. We feel that the more that they're part of something happening on our campus, the more likely they are to feel that it's a place where they're wanted, where they're welcomed, where they enjoy being. and that's going to help to build that positive climate and culture. So some of the action steps that we have from there, again, within school are the No Place for Hate activities. We have things that will happen at lunch. We are going to engage more clubs and groups to try to bring more activities. The minimum is 3, but we can go beyond that. So we're looking to bring more opportunities there, but we want to get out into our community and try to become part of what's happening outside of school too. And we do that to some extent with things like Gold Rush Days and the bell ringing and events around holidays, but we want to extend well beyond that. So we're looking at how we can partner, and we had a conversation just in our last site council about that and how we can get out into the communities more and provide support there, because we're always asking for them to come in and support us. One of the big areas that I feel affects culture is through grading practices. And we've had some discussion around grading practices and how important they are. Right now is a perfect example of how a student can be looking in and seeing that they're not turning things in and not doing things, and they've dug themselves a hole, and how do they get out of that? But how can we help kids to overcome those challenges? How can we change how we grade things and assess things as adults, as teachers, as staff, to help develop that? So part of we're trying to build momentum on how we can develop best practices when it comes to assessment. And so that's part of our climate and culture goal. And then our next goal is to engage our community, engage parents on our campus. And we want to create additional opportunities for parents to come on campus. And that's obviously a hard one, especially where we stand right now. But it was one that really resonated with us last spring, and so we did create that. And our intent is when things get back to normal, if they are back to normal this year, we want to really look for those opportunities for getting people on campus. Not just to come to an athletic event, but how do we fill the auditorium when there's a play? How do we get parents that come on campus because they want to find out more about what's going on in their kids' classes? How do we show off things that are happening in our school within our community so it attracts people to our campus? And just some other ideas that we've come up with. One that is kind of new that I'm doing some research on. I don't know if you're familiar with Love Your Schools Day. You may have heard of that through broadcasts and news broadcasts, but Love Your Schools Day is a day in October where groups come together on campus to really try to spruce up the school, to take on projects, to, when something needs a little extra elbow grease on it and work, they come in and help do that. And so school groups, outside groups have the opportunity to come in and do a little something to build up the school. The difference this year is everything's virtual. So I'm weighing if it's something we want to jump on board with and be new this year too, when it's a virtual program, but it's something that after being here last year that I wanted to try to engage with. So we have it on here. It is pending right now. But we're looking again for opportunities to bring people onto our campus and engage them somehow, as well as then get out and do that same within our community so that we can pay back. Some of the things that we're doing this year, again, I mentioned site council. We have some great parents on our site council, and they are ingrained into different groups across our community, and so we're looking at them to help provide us opportunities to get out and get people into campus. We're going to work with the Chamber, the Rotary, and other organizations to see how we can partner and collaborate with them and share, again, getting out and bringing in. We've started video announcements this year. And so we are right now streaming those video announcements to students so that they can feel like maybe it's a little bit more normal than what it has been. They're still getting that same information that they've gotten in the past. And so we're, again, trying to look for opportunities. And like I told all groups, this is not something that is a be-all, end-all, but we're looking to continue to build on that and bring new ideas to school. And so just last night I had a parent email me with some great ideas on how we can engage. And so that essentially is where we are in terms of our school improvement plan. I know there's been some questions around enrollment. On your packet that you received, you would have seen that there were about 420 students. That is down obviously from 400 or 558-ish maybe last year. That number is now back up to 447, so we are trending in a positive direction. I think that a lot of our kids have moved over to virtual, but we have lost some also to the high school that's opened up down south in Whitman, I believe.
Yeah.
But I every week sign a couple of requests for open enrollment from them, so I know that we're starting to get a few of them back too. So.
Is that what, the Natterburg?
It's just ninth
Natterburg High
grade
School?
down there as well.
Mhm.
The one, the high school at Natterburg, I believe only has ninth grade.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are. I don't know if I said 447 is where we were now. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Any
Good.
questions?
Yeah, you, right now, some kids are coming on campus. Do you know how many are coming on about every day?
35-ish.
Okay. And you talked a lot about assessments. How are the teachers able to assess the high schoolers right now?
That's been a little bit of a challenge, I guess, and not because it's tough to do, but it's getting beyond this, they're gonna, talk to the neighbor and find out what the answer is. Or,
Right.
they've gotta kind of move beyond that and that's what we're working to do, is, you gotta trust the kids. We're in this world right now that we are in, and, we gave Galileo last week and the week before. And it's, something that we're gonna use as data, so you try to share that with the kids, you let them know what the purpose is. If it's not something we're grading you on, but it's gonna help us to know what you need and where you are, so at the end we can reevaluate. Again, it's, those shorter assessments, instead of here's something to do and turn in tomorrow, it's, I need to give you a question that you're gonna give me feedback on right now, and it's more immediate, so it decreases those opportunities, if you will. But I don't think that, I know that there's some of that happens out there, but it's not even close to being, a number that would be significant, I feel. So it's getting teachers to trust in the process too. And they're starting, as time goes on, to do that more and more.
Have you gotten the Galileo data back yet from this, or?
I have not seen the Galileo data yet, no.
Okay.
No.
I didn't know how,
So-
I didn't know how fast you received that back after.
Here's the challenge that we have with Galileo is that it's a window, and it is a little bit longer than the class period, so they'll open it up and then it closes. And if a student doesn't take it in that time, which we were about 50% after the math department had given that test or assessment, and so now they're in the process of doing makeups on that. So about half the data was in after the first week. This week they're working on makeups, and then we're talking about a third option that if we can't get it while they're doing it virtual, can we somehow make an arrangement for them to come in after school once we're back in person, something on their own, and so come up with an idea on how we can continue to get that. But for the board report that I think is in November, we'll make sure that is on there.
I just want to say I liked your report here, the kind of the granularity you got into with details on, your different action items and how, laid them out with dates and everything that you're going to do that. So it gives you something really to work from.
Exactly. Appreciate that.
Well, thanks, Mark.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if I saved the same time.
I don't know, I was like, see, this isn't the same one I.
Now it's time for
2 minutes,
Rose, the queen of the night.
Yeah, hers is like 48 pages.
She's got all the kids now, so.
This is ridiculous.
Everybody says you took their students, so now you've got to justify that, Rose.
By the way, I had to cut my presentation down by like half.
I know, it's like, okay, this isn't what I'm looking at.
Lynn, got to me and told me, hey, this is a little bit long, so I'm sorry.
But it was, I liked the one that I had originally. It had much more information on it, which I still have.
All right, we're ready for Rose.
All right, Rose.
All righty, last but not least, right?
Right.
Okay, well, the virtual, vision I felt like was really appropriate this year, that we're using the new emerging technologies to provide the equity and access for high quality education. And there's a lot of families out there, as you've seen this year, that just weren't really comfortable yet with coming back, even though, you know, the remote learning, but they were thinking, well, it might be, you know, sooner. And so they've chosen virtual. And anyway, it has been a challenge because we have definitely grown. I wrote in here that WVA usually serves students 3 different ways. The virtual, the full-time kids, and then what I put on there is, you'll see, and I have another slide too that shows, last year when I was presenting to you, we had 42 full-time students. This year we have 220. So you can see the stretch and the challenge that has happened. Our teachers, normally 1 hour of their school day is dedicated to the virtual students, and then the rest of their day they teach what we call blended classes, or high school ones. That has morphed now, and we have other teachers teaching the virtual besides. But it was a way to be able to provide the online and do blended classes on the high school campus. Then we also do the concurrent enrollment, and that is usually a way that most of the high school students, they are already full-time, and they're taking extra classes besides, either to catch up on credits, or maybe they want to do an extra challenge. Sometimes they want to do a grade improvement. So those are the 3 ways we normally have worked with students. So I put this one in just for fun, so you could see 42 students last fall when I presented. Now it does grow through the year. We ended up with 92 that we had enrolled by the end of the year, and some of them transfer to the high school January. There's different needs why we end up with
And
virtual
Rose,
kids.
last year you didn't have K-5, right?
No. Well, and you know, the funny thing is, we really have been a K-12 school,
Right.
but we have had very few.
Yeah.
In fact, we used a provider of curriculum with Mesa schools, and they actually quit even offering the kindergarten first and second because they felt like it was not getting the results, and the parents really had to be such a vital part of it. I feel like ours has been really robust, but the parents have definitely stepped up. They've been learning coaches, is what we call them with K-5. I mean, they are really learning coaches. Like, there is a whole manual that those parents get, and then we've also sent home workbooks, and those parents you know, can communicate with the K-5 virtual teacher each week, and the students will do Google Hangouts. So it's a robust system compared to what we did before. Before, we didn't really see great results, and not that many parents chose to do that because it is labor intensive. And we've had always some 6-8 kids for those grades, but again, maybe 4 or 5.
Well, and Algebra 1 is usually done at the high school, right?
At the high school.
But it's virtual
Absolutely.
this year?
Because they weren't reopening, it ended up shifting to virtual, so we've been doing the concurrent enrollment with that. But yes. So this is this year, and I broke up the pages so you can see K-5, we have 43 students, and then the grade 6-8, we have 41 students. Total K-8 enrollment, 84 students. And of course, normally, it was usually 4 to 5. So it has definitely been a stretch, and it's been a huge initiative that the virtual school has gone through. There's been a lot of work in putting that together, as I will share. Then for the high school level that we normally have always covered, you can see 9th grade, we didn't have very many, 10th a few more, obviously, and 11th, and then 12th grade, it was finally 50 12th graders, 50 out of a total of 135 for the district. And so, you know, there's a lot of seniors there. And I think I might have listed in the actual report wrong, so I corrected it in this anyway. So, but that is a lot of high school students. We've had, 136. It's a lot of students to be trying to make sure that we're not losing a semester. We're not, I've even talked to some of the virtual seniors, and I'm telling them, okay, come on, you're right on track. We cannot lose it now. You need to get started. Let me show you how to start. We've had to really work with some kids. They just weren't sure how to get started. And so we've worked a lot one-on-one. This one was just showing then again the blended. So if you can look at, for instance, last year in the fall, we had 261 students that are blended. That means they were in an H building classroom for the high school, scheduled to take a core class in science, social studies, English, or math, using our curriculum, but they're a high school blended class. It's just 1 hour, and they took those courses. So you see now our statistics this year, 203. So you see the shift, and that's exactly what's happened. So we've got less of the blended. I did list for you what each teacher's doing. For instance, some, like my social studies, teaches face-to-face, regular social studies classes, then he teaches an hour of blended for the high school, then he does virtual besides, and so you can see, and it is a challenge. I'm not going to tell you it has not been a challenge for especially those 9-12 teachers, because if you look at, I added their blended numbers with their virtual numbers, so Doug Clements has 209 students that he's working with, and Renee Jones 208, and so on. And that is truly with the high school jumping in and helping us, and several high school teachers becoming blended teachers. I mean, I'm telling you, we've seen such a shift and so much camaraderie and help in doing this, because there's no way we could meet the need. It has just been so big. So if you see, I wrote on, Renee Macias picked up an hour of blended math, and Richard Creary picked up an hour of blended science, and Sue Baker jumped in and did an hour of the blended English. And besides that, she picked up 50 virtual health students, because health is an elective for us, and Brady Nelson had so many students. That's why she only has 187, because she did have those 50, and we moved that to Sue. So you can see it has definitely been teamwork, and we definitely appreciate the high school so much. I mean, Mark and Clint really have worked hard helping us there. And then I will tell you, if you jump the next part, so this is the other part, I mean, Festival Foothills, Bolster Peak, I mean, those staffs have worked so hard. They're already doing all of their students, and then they're picking up students for the grades 6, 7, and 8 for virtual. I mean, it's a big stretch, so, I did want to just give a shout out and thank everyone for all the teamwork. Debbie Hotchkiss has helped so much in coordinating with the K-5. We've had instructional coaches, April Viraldi, Caitlin Hunt, picking up those, and now hope to hire our full-time teacher, but it has been huge, as you can imagine. But the huge part is, with all this teamwork, which, they have, and I'm gonna try and jump through some of this as far as the goals and the training, but all of these teachers who are teaching, whether it's high school level, 6, 8, or even K-5, I mean, we have those same project momentum goals as a district, so that has really helped us to be united. In fact, at the very end, I didn't give you a PD calendar, because all of our teachers are actually part-time virtual, and they're part of every other staff. So they're always doing that. But for instance, the August 28th PD day we did have an hour in the afternoon that we did this virtual PLC, and we worked together as a district staff, and went through, and I had them even tell me your top 3 concerns. And so we then tried to really, in an hour, cover lots of things that they needed. So that is how we're doing that and collaborating. This is just kind of talking through, again, about what I was saying, concurrent students, and I didn't list the Vulture Peak ones there. We only have 4 high school ones. I'll be honest, I feel like they're all a little bit overwhelmed right now with what they're all doing with remote learning. In the high school, there are not very many that have signed up for an extra class besides their full-time ones. So this is showing, and as everybody has illustrated, we didn't get to have testing. We were all very much a part of the Project Momentum goals, so we were really looking forward to seeing improvements as well. It was pretty disappointing to not have that, and I know that sounds strange maybe to some districts or whatever, but our district was very focused, and so we're hoping to have good results. In the standard 1 for school culture, I'm going to just briefly kind of summarize what these are. The first goal was more focused on communication. Really, really important with 220 students all out there virtually, and we even had to tailor the messages out. But we wanted progress reports to go out every Monday. That happens through our computer system, and we worked really hard putting in all that information so that parents could get those every Monday morning. And then Courtney Butler, as our program assistant, makes sure to just send out things to inform students and parents. She makes sure to tell them about things that are happening. We did, and Jen mentioned about the newsletters. We watch your websites is what we're doing, so that we can then send out and tell the 6-8 kids and so on, the K-5s, we can at least tell them things that are happening. So we do a separate little email for them. I'm going to keep moving here. The next one was more about connecting, and this is more about that we, for instance, WVA, by those teachers graciously helping us and becoming blended teachers at the high school, our WVA teachers normally have 1 hour for virtual, but they have 2 teaching hours for virtual. In other words, that's why we had to have other teachers step in to be blended, because these virtual teachers had so many students, they needed the 2 hours to try to connect with Google Hangouts, with emails. It's still not perfect, because when you've got 200 students, you're still not getting to connect perfectly. So they're having to do Google Hangouts more as a group, because they don't have time sometimes to do one-on-one. We then obviously, and I did write in there, and I'll show you a little snip, but we have an on-demand tutor that I'm really happy that is in our curriculum that does help with that. Later on, as we reopen the campus, we're hoping that we can have the after-school day that we usually have for students to come in. Sometimes they like to come in after work, things that are going on, whatever in their lives, that they became a virtual student. But right now we're closed, but we're hoping to reopen at that time too. And then we're also going to, we usually had kids be able to come 1 or 2 days a week, but with so many, Courtney Butler and I were discussing it. I said to her, I think they're going to have to make appointments, Courtney. I don't know what else to do. But we'll try to make times for these students to come in, because they really miss their time to come in and get help sometimes. So we'll be working on doing that after fall break. Then the other one, as far as school culture, was just, we were quickly making different little videos, different help tutorials and so on, putting them on our website. We actually had to make separate tabs, and so this is the grade 6-12 tab, and then this is the K-5 tab, and different helps for the parents and the students. We had to go ahead and update to make sure that we had more helps there. I then did put in the snip just to show you, this is an actual just page in a math lesson. And the student actually, that's just showing where the chat opens. But the student can click the tutor button and a chat can open, and there's tutors that are specifically, so that would be a math tutor jumping in, they can actually open an interactive whiteboard. It's just a great thing at least to have one more resource. Some students are very hesitant to use it. They're like, I don't know how to use it. So we're trying to get them used to using this. You know, it's another help, and it's on weekends, and it's on Friday, and, you know, during the school day even, because our teachers are even doing Google Classroom remote learning with high school at the same time. So it's a help for them.
Well, and Rose, I'll tell you, I heard from a first grader who's in WVA about her mom was very excited to have the support there 24/7.
Yes, yes. It really, I mean, I will say to you, and I have seen such success, the K-5s, I'm telling you, the parents who chose to do that, they have just been so dedicated and working so hard with it, and it's been really fun to look at their progress. So that's good to hear. The second one, as far as our curriculum academics, just briefly, I'll just highlight it because I've kind of already said it, is we have the same goals. We are definitely influenced by the high school Project Momentum team. We have virtual teachers who are part of Project Momentum, different schools anyway. So we're looking to improve by the 5% with the AZM2. It is a different test, so it'll be a little bit different to look at that. We have been benchmarking. We did Galileo, and we are actually still doing Galileo for the ones who still hadn't quite finished it. But we are working hard to do that. We have been using close reading, but we're also working hard on the note-taking strategies with the students. Our curriculum has great examples of what you should put in your notes for each lesson, and it's a great guide. So we're trying to show them, again, how to take notes, what you should be gleaning out of the lesson, because it's hard otherwise. The kids get to the end of the lesson, they haven't written enough down, they haven't really understood. So we're trying to get them to understand ways to learn online. So this is the math goal, same thing, the 5% increase is what we're looking at. And the benchmarking, and we're doing some Google Hangouts, but it is hard for so many students. So that's why we're really excited about the on-demand tutoring. And then my last goal here is to become accredited with the Advanced Ed Cognia. You might remember we were actually on that journey last year, and it got completely canceled because they said they could not come out. So we were so busy then trying to shift and work with all the online for the fourth quarter. And then this year, we are so different that we're gonna go through the readiness diagnostic tool again. I am really excited about that just because I think we're gonna get some great input, and we'll never probably have the huge numbers, but I think some people, we've really grown this year, and we've really stepped into, I think, another arena that is going to really be a strength for families who want virtual for whatever grade level. So we're going to be working through that and adding in a lot of the K through 8 input that I think will help us. So I raced through it really fast.
You did really good.
You
Took
did
some
great.
time. Yes.
I have one question. Are you expecting like an influx if and when the Ropers come back? With-
Yeah.
With Roper kids?
Yeah, that does happen. Although I will tell you, a lot of the ropers are still with me unless they graduated last year.
Ah, okay.
See, when they came to me last winter, what happens is I slowly end up with them because they are residents here. They own a ranch here usually, the whole bit, but they're still out there. They've been emailing me. I know we're really busy with nationals. Anyway, they're out traveling, but they're a part of the school, and they are actually working on weekends, nights, whenever they, so I'm not sure it's gonna totally grow more with that. And I know that we'll also, as we said, we're gonna have students also move back to their home campuses,
Right.
and we're just happy we could give them that support. We've also seen some parents just love doing the online, and so I think that's gonna be with us too. So, you know, we will have to see. I am going to give you guys an update October 20th about what do my numbers look like now, you know, after we've opened a campus and we're seeing, so I'll write an update so you can see that. Any other questions?
I just wanted to say thank you because I know that your job has, not that theirs hasn't been difficult, but it's been completely different this year.
It
For virtual. I mean, you've been virtual, but this is, yeah.
It really is, but that's how come I did want to say, I mean, without the team effort, all of the administrators, Debbie Hotchkiss, Dr. Remondini, I mean, I'm just saying, we have done it as a team, because it was a pretty huge undertaking. It really was.
And there's a lot of districts that don't have this option, and so I think we're all grateful that it exists.
I would agree, and I'll be honest with you, I was getting people, after school started for a week or two, I was starting to get people coming from other districts because they were like, well, nope, we want this. So it is nice to at least have the option for families and whatever they're comfortable with.
Well, thank you, Rose. Great report.
Thank you, Rose.
Appreciate it, Rose. Very nicely done.
Okay.
So we're gonna take a few minutes between meetings,
Okay.
and then on your way back, Lynn has put out some snacks in the other room there.
Okay, thanks.
Harder.
No, she's moving.
Should make this one.
I didn't make you do anything. All right, so we're going to call this meeting to order at 7:01, and this is the meeting of September 15th, 2020. So if you'll all join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you.
Rotten athletes. You're ruining my
Let's roll
football.
away.
Oh, thank you so much.
So we are live streaming this meeting, so I just wanted to, for the sake of our virtual audience, we do have all 5 board members in attendance, as well as our superintendent and our director of business services, as well as some guests for presentations. So with further ado, we need an adoption of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda for September 15th, 2020 as submitted.
Oh. All right, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay, item 2 is our first presentation, and that is a reopening of schools, and presentation is by Ms. Erin Johnson and Ms. Valerie Shumway.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening, President Malio and school board members and Dr. Remendini. Tonight, Erin and I are going to give you an update on our reopening plans. We still plan to open on October 19th. That is our target date. And after listening to all of the principals give their reports, I thought, good heavens, the wait. Here we go. We're going to keep adding on. But as you know, this is important work, and we are definitely engaged in it. We did re-engage the task force that we had this summer. So the same people were asked with a few extras and a couple little adjustments. The work has changed a little. This summer, the task force committee was assigned into subjects, and this work that we're doing now is by school. So each of the committee members were assigned to a school, and their task was to look at their reopening plans that were created a couple months ago and to review those to see if they needed anything changed in them, to also look at the current guidelines to make sure those things matched, and then to give recommendations to us, the board, and to any necessary changes that they might feel is needed, and then to help them be prepared for reopening the schools. So that was their work. This week they are meeting as task force schools. It's led by the principal. The committees are made up of the principal, cabinet members, teachers, and principal and parents. So a great team, and they're doing good work. See if I can get this to work. As you know, through this whole process, communication is essential and so critical to the work. Contacting employees has been right up there as one of our priorities. We will survey them. Tomorrow is our goal, after Dr. Remendini meets with the principals one more time, to see where they are in their readiness to return on October 19th, and we will give you that information as soon as that's finished. We also, with this ever-changing environment, the communication to our employees is as changes occur. So that comes mostly through the principals as Dr. Remendini and others meet with them in their K-12 meetings, and then official letters have been sent out through Dr. Remendini also. Contacting families, one of the first things that we've contacted recently is that the new food program, and you guys, I'm sure, have heard of that, but USDA came out and said that we could feed all children 18 and under for free, no matter if they came to our school or not, or if their families participated in our education programs. So we are feeding children for free. That program runs through December 31st. Right now we're doing our grab and go through our school sites and our bus routes. When we hit October 19th, we will shift and we will not do grab and go anymore, but they will be able to be fed free through our cafeterias. So we have that program will continue. We say till December 31st, but we will run it through our school. When we stop school on December 17th, we will, for that holiday, we'll end that part then, and we'll see if they continue on.
Hey Valerie, before you go on from that section there,
Yeah.
what's going to happen with the food program after October 19th when the kids come back to school and some parents may choose to stay on remote learning? What will happen to the kids out there still for food?
We haven't worked out totally the details of that yet. Maybe Erin can join in, but it was my understanding that they're going to get the food at campus. They'll figure out some way to route. Erin, have you solved that?
We won't do the routes any longer come the 19th, but if there is a need, we will reach out to those folks that are doing the remote learning and coordinate with them. So dependent on the numbers will depend on whether we set up a small grab and go site if we have several, because as you know, we don't want to mix our cohorts and have outsiders coming into our cafeteria. So we haven't worked that out yet because we don't know what the numbers are going to be yet, but more to come on that.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things we talked about doing was surveying those remote parents when they make that choice and then identify more of their needs. So we'll see if when our numbers come back, if that's something that we need to do.
What about WVA, if there's some free and reduced lunch people there, maybe?
We don't need to worry about free and reduced with this because everyone's
but
free.
everybody, but to
So
offer
they
that
will
to
come
them,
in, pardon?
to offer that to them as well.
The opportunity is there. How we get it to them is the key we haven't worked out. They can obviously come to the school where we can hand it to them in some way, because schools will be producing those free lunches. I don't know, any other thoughts on that, Erin?
WVA has always participated in our program, so it'd be no different moving forward. It's just a matter, like Valerie says, working out those logistics.
And the parents too, working out those logistics. Things are going to change for them. And I think we kind of see the program growing now that it is totally free. USDA has made that.
So as of October 19th, there's no changes. It's all students. It won't matter. They don't have to meet a certain qualification
Right.
of free and reduced.
Until December 31st, there's no qualifications
Okay.
that have to be met. All students are free. That's happening now.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's happening now. So that we've communicated out to our families. The schools have been great to reach out and let them know. We've sent messages out, and we just hope it continues to be shared. We will next week survey our families and ask them, the parents, to choose what learning option they would like for their kids. And that option will begin October 19th. Through that survey, asking them the options, we will get a feel for how they feel about returning. If we have a majority choose remote, we'll know a lot aren't ready. Though I think we all know that many are ready to come back. Did I forget to? Sorry, Barbara's signaling me. Sorry, Barbara. We will continue to reach out to our parents and communicate them the expectations for returning, what that looks like, the masks wearing. We have a few examples there, but just our different expectations that we'll need them to do health checks, that we'll need the kids to wear masks, and just keep communicating with them those expectations so that they're aware of what returning looks like. This is the end of my portion. I don't know if you have any questions with what I've presented already. If not, I'll give it to Erin to finish that out.
I know I talked to a friend who's doing the distance learning, and
They obviously want to see what happens on October 19th, and they have expressed that if given the option, they would maintain their distance learning probably through the end of the year. However, I'm just using a hypothetical, we come back on October 19th, and we have several families who have said, no, I want to continue to do distance. Will they be given an option to change their minds later on? And maybe this is
Are you,
getting
when you
into
say
Aaron's
distance,
stuff.
are you meaning remote or
Yes.
WVA?
Remote.
Remote learning?
Mm-hmm.
Will they be given, if they choose remote,
Mm-hmm.
and then a month later they think, this is not going well, can they regroup in November, let's say? It is our goal to meet the needs of every child. So if a child has a need that happens in between those times, we're definitely going to look at it and do what's best for them.
Okay.
So.
And I say this too because I have a friend in Ohio, or I guess she's in Indiana now. Her students chose the distance learning option, the remote learning option. Kids are going back to school. Their work schedules have changed, and she wanted her kids to be able to go into school now. And they said, no, you passed the deadline. You can't send them in person now. So just, things that I've seen around.
Yeah, we're learning from each other, huh? We are really learning from each other and learning, if somebody could do a playbook of all the mistakes so that we don't have to make them, that would be nice.
Yeah.
But it is a constant, you have these little blurbs that we're sharing in. And as you know, the brain work behind one little line has taken just hours and hours to try to figure out what's best, because we do not, we haven't done it before.
Yeah.
We don't know the outcomes. But Dr. Remendini, did you have a comment you'd like to make?
No, I would just encourage Ms. Johnson to continue on, because I think the next slide that she presents will answer some of the questions that maybe we have.
Very
So,
good.
okay.
All
I will do my
right.
best.
All right.
So remote learning, obviously we're researching more of what that's going to look like, and what that possibility is going to be for those that wish to do so when we do return in person. So much of it's going to depend on the surveys that go out to see the numbers. And then the staffing will be determined, again, by those numbers. So we're really hindering on those kinds of things. We do want to do what's best for kids, like Valerie said, and we'll work with families, but we don't want the in and out either.
Right.
Because then we can't plan accordingly.
Yes.
And so, it's hard to have those definitive cutoffs like that, but there is a reason for them at times too. So not saying no, but not saying yes. We'll work with families individually to meet those needs that are needed.
And now I will interrupt and make a comment.
Go ahead.
So as we're researching viability of offering a remote learning option to families after we return to in-person learning, we are still in that researching the viability of it. There's multiple different ways in which we can offer this option to families, and it does depend on our resources, our staff needs, and those kinds of things. So at this point, at this time on September 15th at 7:14 p.m., we are not ready to declare to the public what that will look like. So there's a lot of work that's going on behind the scenes, and we do feel confident that we will be able to offer this to families. We just need some more time to prepare that.
And I have a question. So you broke your mic?
Trying to make it lower for myself.
Oh, okay. When you say viability, is that, to me, when I read that, it looks like whether we can do it or we can't do it, when you say viability.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is.
Because that's because then you kind of pull the rug out. If you can't do it, you kind of pull the rug out from underneath the parents that in the previous slide chose to do remote.
Right, so if you look at the previous slide, it says the parents select their choice for
Yes.
options. So even if we were not to be able to provide a remote learning opportunity, we still do have two options for our families. We have in-person and we have Wickenburg Virtual Academy.
Okay.
And so if there were some reason that would get in the way of us being able to offer that third option, our families still have two, which is a real benefit to the district because not all districts have a virtual
Right.
academy that covers
Okay.
K-12. So again, I feel confident that we will be able to do this, but it does mean working with our current staff, our numbers, and our teachers, and technology, and all those things that have to come together, and researching what's best per grade level. So there's a lot of work that's going on
And
behind the
budgeting.
scenes. So we're optimistic, but we're just not there yet. But we will be in the next few days. Thank you.
And Ron, maybe just one more comment to echo your question. In the survey, we do, on that choice for remote learning, we say if available. So it doesn't let a parent, it gives a parent that knowledge that it may not be there.
Right, and as a follow-up to the survey, for those that are interested in the remote learning, we will do follow-up with them, just to get some more details and engage that interest and see what the needs are and the concerns. Our next slide here talks to Chromebook collection. So Chromebook collection will begin both in Festival and Wickenburg on Thursday, October 8th, and will continue on Friday, October 9th. These dates allow for students to complete work that is assigned through Thursday, as we will be on fall break the following week. It's very, very important to get these Chromebooks back so that IT can get them prepared and in the classrooms for when we return in person. So it is imperative that we get them back. And so these are our two big days that we're going to be collecting. We do expect some to trickle in after that, but we're hoping that the majority of them do come in on these 2 dates. So we'll go over our timeline a little bit as we approach reopening. Last week, we began work on a plan for various learning options, as well as contacted those participating in the reopening task force. This week, a survey will go out to our staff to determine readiness and comfort level on returning in person. The task force meetings are also taking place to review the reopening plans. Next week, I'm still there. Next week, a survey to families will go out to determine readiness for return to in-person learning, as Valerie spoke about earlier. Also, walkthroughs will be taking place by the task force committee members. What they'll be doing is each site task force will be visiting another campus and doing a walkthrough. This will aid in the reopening readiness of each of our campuses and offer an outside perspective on those campuses, which we think is a really great idea. You know, so often when you are looking at your own campus or your own home every day, there's a lot of things that you might not see. But when somebody from the outside comes in, they're gonna see a lot more than what you didn't see. You just kind of turn a blind eye to something. So we think that that will be a very big benefit to our reopening. We will also finalize staffing needs and provide training to staff for learning options. We'll begin that. So as we continue through
Excuse
the
me,
week.
do you,
Yes.
actually, I have a question. Do you have dates for those walkthroughs?
Yes.
Schedule?
We do. I think you have them.
September
We don't know
21st
which
through
ones
24th.
or what days
Yeah,
yet.
we don't have
It's
which
on
ones or which days.
September 21st through 24th. Right?
Yes, I don't have that specific information with me, but I can definitely get that out to you guys if you'd like.
Lynn's gonna send it.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
will ask Ms. Green to
Yeah.
send that to all of the board members so they have that for their information.
Thank you.
Okay, the week of September 28th, that's going to be the beginning of our tons of communication going out. So lots of it will be taking place. We'll be communicating to not only our staff about any changes to the reopening plans, if there are any, as well as the community. We'll also be communicating on learning options, and we will also remind families of the expectations upon returning, so such as masks, visitors, device return if they haven't done so yet, all of those protocols that will be put in place. The week of October 5th, more communication. So we feel like that is key. We need to get the word out on what our expectations are, that we are opening,
And that will go out on many platforms. I know Valerie and Dr. Remendini have been working hard on that communication plan. And so we're confident that we'll be able to get the message out and everybody will feel like they are in the know. We also will be supporting our teachers in setting up classrooms, as well as preparing for schools for the reopening. The week of 10-12 will be our last push. So final preparations will take place so that we are sure to be ready to welcome our students and staff back to a safe atmosphere. And so we feel that that will be a good time to get that going. That will be fall break. And so it should be quiet, and we should have that last week just for that push to make sure that, you know, we're ready to go and everybody's feeling comfortable. So that is our update on reopening at this point. Are there any questions?
I had one, I just forgot.
I think they came as you flowed through, I think we got them all. Appreciate it. Thank you,
Okay,
ladies.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work.
Yes.
Thank you for all your communication.
It's key.
That's key. All right, our next presentation is Mr. Matt Johnson, Athletic Director for the high school. I'm going to talk to the state of Wickenburg athletics.
State of the Union.
Bum, bum, bum.
Mr. President, Dr. Remanini, governing board, good evening. I have packets for you today because there's been a handful of stuff that's been released after I put this together. So if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna leave this alone because I feel like those
Matt,
two.
you have to talk into the mic or they can't hear you on the stream.
They already beat this stuff up enough. I'm gonna end up being the straw that broke the back. Okay, so I will speak into the mic. So I'm gonna kind of give you a preseason report and where we're at now. And like I said, things are changing, seems like almost daily. So where we're at now, so we're trying our best to follow, we're not trying our best. We're following the guidelines set forth by the AIA. They're not always all encompassing, but as well as with them, I've been having frequent meetings and it kind of slowed down a little bit with Mr. Gorman and Dr. Remanini, but also just continuing to get information that's being sent to me through the AIA. So that's kind of where we're at. We're in receiving mode. We're bringing things in and we're adjusting as we go. But our plan is to be prepared. And that's kind of hard with this, but as things come in, we just gather up and get prepared as best we can. We're following all the guidelines through the AIA, the CDC, the health department, and also the town of Wickenburg. So one of the biggest things, and I just got an email about it, is spectators. Are we gonna have spectators this year? We are planning on having spectators this year. So what we've done to kind of make that a safer environment was we're gonna put in a digital ticket system. So we're gonna try to get everybody to buy tickets digitally. That way we don't, and as well as season passes. And so that way we don't have to put as many people at the gate, have people handling money, handling tickets. We're gonna try to keep some of that to a minimum. We're streaming home games. We're just waiting on an internet thing that I talked to Jeremy on, and he's on it. So our plan is to stream all home games in the gym as well as up at the field house. He said we're right there. We just got one more thing we got to do, and we're hoping we can get it by the first game, but it might be just after the start of the season. With the seating capacities, it's kind of a tough one. So in the gym, we set the gym up, and we also need to accommodate for teams that come in kind of that cohort and where they're going to be able to be, because they usually stuff themselves up in the stands. So what we did, and I worked real close with our new security guy, Noel Hechtel. He's our basketball coach as well. And so we've decided that behind the gyms, when we set the gym up for a volleyball or basketball game, anything behind the stands is going to be roped off for the teams, coaches, teams, and managers, and all their equipment. But inside of the stands, we're going to mark off sections where we can put spectators. Now, we counted it out, and we can get approximately 272. That's opening up the entire gym for everything. With volleyball, we usually only open up half of it, and everybody crams into one side. There's no need for two. So in order to accommodate as many people as we can, we're gonna open the whole gym up, all sections of bleachers for everything. The football stadium is a little bit different, and I'll give you a paper in just a second that shows this better.
Yeah.
We went up there and we looked at sections. So we also did a diagram of the bleachers with X's every 6 feet, and we kind of looked at that and thought, it's not really a great setup. So we went up there and we spent a couple hours up there looking at the stadium, and what we did was we basically broke the bleachers into sections. So if, let's say, myself and my family come in, we get a section, and it's like a 10-foot section, so that I can fit 4 people easily in that 10-foot section, and then there's a 10 feet gap between the next section. And when I show you the diagram, it works out really good, because if you were to break it into 6, we'd have a little bit smaller sections. The way we broke it up, we had 3 10-foot sections, family, and then a big strip down the center that just keeps it wide open. So I'll show you that in just a second. And we also took the fence line. We have a lot of people that stand at the fence at our
Right.
games. And whether it's good or bad, I don't really know, to be honest. But at this point, if we wanted to maximize our capacity there without becoming unsafe, we split it into 8-foot sections. So every 8 foot on that fence is a pole. So we can put a family or a group in one section, leave a section open, put another family in a section, and pretty much all the way around the field. So I don't anticipate we're gonna have that great of a crowd to where we are lining people up around. And then, so, like I said, it's something that we're gonna have to live it a couple times before we know how to really adjust for it, so.
I had a question on
Yes, sir.
that.
You want me to go back?
Yes, please. The bottom one there, the 36, 10 foot,
Yeah.
12, 6 foot.
You want me just to give you this first? I can give you this right now, and then it'll make a lot more sense.
Okay, maybe.
Let's do that, because
Because,
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like it was.
Because it's made no
If you're
sense.
10 feet, you could get 36, but at 6 feet, you could only get 12.
Yes.
I mean, that didn't make sense.
I know.
Yeah, those
Okay,
numbers
so
didn't
when
seem to look
I,
right.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to
on
me
your
either.
second page, sorry about that. On your second page, you'll have a regular stadium seating chart, and it's 2-sided. So the first side is basically what we can do if we put a person every 6 feet. And I don't think that's a great setup. But if you look on the back side, so what, so if you look at the 36 10-foot sections, so on these 3 main sets, this is a 30-foot long bleacher. And if we take a strip down the middle and close it off, we'll be able to put 2 families per bleacher. And then if you count those all up, it becomes 36 10-foot sections, okay? And then the 12 6-foot sections are these little sections along the side right here. So we're just trying to maximize as much as spectator sections as opposed to individual seats.
That was the confusing part.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going like 36 people at 10 foot, but only 12 at 6 foot, yeah. Okay, that's why it was making no
each one-
sense.
So these are a 10-foot section, this is a 10-foot section in a closed one. The 18 8-foot sections are fence sections. Okay, I know, it's super confusing. Like I said, so, and then let me skip through and we'll get through this, and then I'll go through this packet with you, just real quick. So what's new for 2021? Susan King is gonna be our head swim coach. She was our assistant coach for the last couple years, and she's taken over, and her and Ron Tillipov kind of flip-flopped, and so he's helping her out. We lost Terry Davidson to the hospital, and so Brady Nelson is a new teacher for us, and she was our assistant, or JV and assistant coach last year. She stepped up. We've had all athletes signing the athlete waiver that come from the trust. That's been a big priority for us, and we've gotten no kickback on that, no parents questioning it. The digital ticket sales and season passes, that's gonna be a big thing for us. My goal is by next year, not this year, but next year to try to go paperless as far as tickets are concerned. And then the streaming games, if we have to, I'd rather not charge for it, but if we have to, it's gonna be simple. It's gonna be about the price of a ticket. You know, for a football game, it might be $7. For a basketball game, it might be $5. So it's not gonna be expensive. I don't wanna try to gouge people and make a ton of money on this, but we're looking at, and I wrote an article about this, but we're looking at some kind of financial things coming up. Is we have to limit spectators. Our gates are gonna be real low, and so I don't know how that's all gonna play out, but we'll see. Okay, so there's some general guidelines for all sports, and then I'll break it down into individuals. Distancing, big thing. Sanitizing equipment, balls, equipment, even the poles for the volleyball, anything that's worn by football players is being sanitized, and as well as masks. At this time, there's no locker rooms, but I had some early indications from the AIA, and there's some paperwork in here that you can get into if you have time. They're indicating that they might get to the point where they reopen locker rooms. And so with that, if that happens, so right now, 0 locker rooms, nobody's going in them. If it happens to where locker rooms are opened up, we're lucky that we have really big locker rooms and a lot of lockers. And especially at the football field, we have 2. We have a visitors and a home. We can easily distance lockers, or we can send 10 kids at a time. Go in, grab your stuff, and get out. So that's kind of our preliminary plan if we get to that point. Mike and I had talked about that, and Jim has helped me out with a lot of this stuff too. Earlier before we really got into the no lockers. But
I just a question about that in regards to locker rooms. I mean, aren't these kids around each other all of the time anyway?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and
just
that's
saying.
That's one of the things with the sports, and is quite frequently after events, and I talked to Dr. Remendini about this. After events, you guys have been to football games. When we're done, they just pack onto the field, and it's like, oh, what do we do? How do we stop that? And so, our thing is we're just going to do the best we can. We're gonna put our guidelines in place and our procedures, and do the best we can at getting people to follow those, so that I can sleep at night saying, yes, we did what we possibly could. So you're right, they are all together.
All it takes is one student to have COVID and come in and group in that locker room with the others.
Yeah, and on that, I emailed the coaches this morning and said because our target temperature is 100.4 degrees. Anything over that, get them out, because they're all taking temperature, and they're taking it right here. Because I read an article, Doug Clements brought me an article about the fact that we're bringing kids in a line to us, and we're pointing something that looks like a gun at their head. And we're conditioning kids. I was like, okay, I don't know if that's true, but let's just. So Doug and I tried it. We did the head, we did here, we did here. There was almost no difference. So all the coaches, I've advised them to take the temperature right here. And not at this point, we haven't sent a single kid home. We haven't had a single kid even near 100 degrees. So
Even outside at football practice?
yeah. I did it at swim practice the other day. I tested one kid, and he was like upper 90s or upper 99s. And he said, I'm sitting out in the sun, I'm hot. And no, whatever. But no, we have not sent anybody home. We've been really good for, I think swim's been for a couple weeks.
I think what was interesting to me is that they tested the 5,000 NFL players tested positive.
Yeah.
And they're all drooling in each other's faces. So.
That's gross. The other thing, and I'll just throw this in real quick. I was in a meeting, and I was in a Zoom meeting with the, not the founder, but the guy that has the Snap Fitness here in town. His name is Steele Sachs, I think. It's kind of a crazy name, but cool. But he sent me a study that said workout facilities, fitness places like that, the people that are super healthy in there all the time, it's like 500% lower COVID contraction with those type of people that are regular gym users, just because they're so healthy and they're so fit. And so I'm hoping our kids are kind of in that in that range too.
Plus, they've all been hanging out with each other for the last 6 months.
Yeah, it's already a good cohort. So the other thing that we really want to do is we want to split up the concession stands, and we don't want to get this big bottleneck by the concession like we've always had, especially up at the field house. So we're going to put a table over by the visitor section. We're going to put a table over by the home section, and we're not going to do. We're going to just do prepackaged food this year. We don't want to get into the liability of having us serve food, hot food, nachos, hot dogs, burgers, that kind of thing. So we figure if we can split it up, we'll avoid people interacting as much as possible. So, okay, volleyball. No more than 12 kids on a court, and that's just because it takes 12 to volley the ball back and forth. Frequent breaks for water and hand sanitizers. Coach Nelson is making them sanitize from their fingertips to their elbows every hydration break. We're blowing through sanitizer. It's kind of weird, but it's good. And as that's happening, her assistant coach is spraying down and wiping all the balls off, and then they do the whole thing at the end of practice. So they're doing a really good job using the whole court and the whole field. Basketball, and I put this up here, it's not a fall sport, but basketball never ends. It's an off season, they're always going. No more than 10 kids per court if they split up. No more than 2 kids per basket. Frequent breaks for water and sanitizer. And same thing, all equipment is sanitized regularly, whether it's after a drill or after practice or both. Football is deemed as the AAA as the highest risk sport, so we've encouraged them to use the entire field. They're to social distance at all times. Lots of time, or they're frequently in stations where they're 10 or less, working on drills, working on positions. Gloves are strongly recommended. He's having a hard time getting kids to buy into the gloves thing, but he's pushing that really hard. We're having as few people touch the football right now as possible. Quarterbacks and receivers pretty much, and that's it.
And how are you training your running backs? What are they carrying? A towel?
I think they're just hitting the hole and running.
It's like, okay, what about the running backs?
Well,
they have to run with the ball.
I know, but I've been in practice, and what I love about when Mike came to Wickenburg is Mike spreads the field out and Mike throws the ball a lot. And so that's a lot of what they're doing is just throwing the ball a lot. So we'll see. We got a great running back in Bryson Alder this year as a senior, so we'll see how that goes. But same thing, no locker rooms at this time at all. Cross country is deemed low risk. They're to social distance at all time. Staggering athletes at the starting line. No spitting and no locker rooms. I don't know what the no spitting thing is all about. That came out and I had to read it twice. I thought, no spitting, what's that all about? So when I asked Doug about it, Doug was pretty upset about it. Obviously, there's a lot of spitting in cross country. I had no idea.
There's none in football?
I don't know. Maybe they have spitting contests as they run. I don't know how that works. I read it twice and I thought, what is that? That's got to be a mistake. But Doug was pretty upset about the no spitting thing.
Huh.
Really?
He said if they're not going to be able to spit, they're going to have to do like snot rockets or something. Because they have to. I guess you have to get some stuff out of you when you're running.
As long as they're wearing their mask, they can spit.
I tell you, I'll just tell you, when I go run,
Yeah.
my nose does too.
See?
It's just a thing.
True statement.
That
Yeah.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
That's why
that
I wear a
was
mask.
That was funny. You had just to catch it. And then transportation, working close with Mike and Aaron on transportation. And at this point, I'm getting him our schedules and our leave times, but we're still in the process of kind of working out that detail. So in the future, winter sports guidelines have not been released. It's been such a big push for fall. There's been no talk about winter at all. I know that the seasons have shrunken and are being moved backwards. We are not anticipating basketball starting until the end of November, when it's supposed to start at the beginning. To be honest, I don't know how wrestling is going to go. And
That's pretty close.
And I've had numerous conversations with Aaron Grody, and he says, I don't see how wrestling is going to happen. The amount of sweat and the proximity of the kids, I just don't see how that's going to go.
That's contact sport.
Wrestling.
Oh, wrestling.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's super close contact. So that's kind of where we are with that. And so in your packets, I have the start dates sent to us from the AIA. And then I just pretty much put kind of these guidelines. They came to me after I put this together. So I just stapled them and put them in there. You guys can look at them. You can do whatever you want with them. I just thought you should have them. So those are the modifications that we're looking at for this fall. And then the last is a football metrics. It's kind of that Excel-looking sheet. I just saw that today for the first time. What it says is in Maricopa County, we need to be at 42 cases per 10,000, or no, I'm sorry, per 100,000 and a 5% positivity. We are good to practice, but right now it says per competition, we have not met those metrics.
So what is the cases per 100,000 that puts it in the good category?
So 42 cases per 100,000 is, that or less is what they're
I
shooting.
thought that's what it, okay, I was reading that, but that's what it is.
That's what they're shooting for, is 42 per 100,000 or less, 5% positivity, and then the hospitalizations. I never see that number, so I don't really know. But it says we're good to practice, but it looks like the competition is not ready yet.
So if 42's go and they're not there for competition.
Yeah.
Is that green or yellow?
What are
Since we got it in gray and
Oh,
dark gray.
I don't think.
Those are.
There must be other criteria because Yavapai County, it says
sorry.
no as well, and there all the numbers are.
And
a lot
I know
lower.
Yavapai's low as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But look at, they're a 28 per 100,000, so they're a lower,
It's supposed to be 10.
my gut says, even if we're
Supposed to be
not
10. That's what it's supposed to be.
meeting
yeah.
these, football still goes on October 2nd.
They're traveling from county to county anyway.
Yeah. Now, I can tell you that I did get an email today from Kingman as well as Chino Valley saying no visitors are coming to our place for fall. So, and luckily, we don't have Kingman this year, but we have Chino Valley for homecoming, and they're coming to us, so we don't have to worry about that. But volleyball goes to both of them, so, but they said they don't want any visitors, so.
I mean, you mean spectators?
Spectators.
Okay, thank you.
Is-
I was gonna say
Visiting
teams or
spectators.
visitors.
Is the Parker
Okay.
game still at Parker?
Yeah, the Parker game,
Yeah,
what a
what's
mess
that?
this was. This was our fourth schedule change since the beginning of the season. And Parker went to, somehow in the shuffle got put back to Parker. And so I reached out to him, Daniel Maya, and the AIA and said, hey, just in the flow of things, we needed to come back. And he said, absolutely not. He said, if I do that, I only have 2 home games, and I'm not willing to do that. So I just I used it as fuel for Mike. I told him, I fibbed to him a little bit and told him that, just to get him fired up. So we're gonna go there this year, but the good thing about going to Parker is that it's not gonna be 113 at game time like it was last year.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're like 6 weeks behind where we were last year. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but it's out of our hands, so. I would love to field some more questions. I haven't touched any of this stuff yet, so I'm doing good.
Anybody have anything for him?
I just want to know if Bryson's running back, who's quarterbacking?
So here's what we got. Calagero is gonna quarterback,
Okay.
but from what I understand, I was talking to Mike about this today, Logan James
Oh,
is looking really good.
Okay.
And so when I went over to the JV practice yesterday, he wasn't there, and I looked at the mix of the varsity, and he's practicing with varsity. So we're excited about him, and I think his brother played in 15,
Keelan.
16.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played
And
with my grandson.
And he was a good, solid quarterback for us. So the other thing is we have a freshman. His name is Jake Stanley. And I don't know where he came from, but Mike is super impressed with his freshman quarterback. And so I'm hoping that for the next 4 to 5 years, we can have just good, solid quarterbacks. So, and the other thing is, we have a decent group of seniors with Clay Watson and Bryson. But we have a phenomenal group of juniors. Our juniors next year, I'm glad they get to play this year to get some experience because our junior class on both sides, boys and girls, are athletes and academic kids. They're just great kids. So
Great.
I'm excited to see those guys mature and see what we can work out next year. I think we got a great shot at region this year. I think we'll be right there. And then I think next year it's our it's ours to lose, so,
Nice.
yeah.
Great.
It's good news.
That would be great.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank you, board. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank
Oh,
you.
we will. All right, so we're still on number 2.
Two.
So C is recognitions, proclamations. Does anybody have anything that they wanted to recognize at this meeting?
Well, I think we told them while they were here, but, just would like to say it again, how proud I am about all the hard work that these people are all doing. All of them, from communications to teachers to everybody.
Absolutely.
I just think they've all really stepped up to the plate and have done a really great job.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say is it's everybody on our team. WUSD strong. We're all in it together and we're doing it. These guys are awesome. So really appreciate everybody on this team. All right. So now number 3 is call to the public, and we don't really have any public. We have somebody writing down public stuff, but you didn't want to speak at this meeting, did you? I can't get anybody to talk here.
It's not answering.
All right, consent agenda. Anybody need anything pulled before we take action on that huge consent agenda? Hearing none, can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items for September 15th, 2020 as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. All right, now we're into action items, which is number 5. And our first action item is a request for approval of financial reports by Mrs. Erin Johnson.
Hello.
Hello.
Waiting for this.
Do you need to hang it up?
She's gonna call back. We're having some technical difficulties with the phone. It's in and out.
It's green right now, as if it's on.
It is, I believe, but she got disconnected, so she'll be calling back. So
Okay.
hopefully she can call back in by our next action item. So, first action item there is the financial reports. And you can see that there is a little bit of a difference this year as compared to last year in M&O. A lot of that has to do with, we have a decrease in salaries, mostly due to subs. We don't have any subs so far this year, so that's great. We also are saving on utilities because we don't have everybody in the buildings right now, as well as repair and maintenance. We don't have kids here breaking stuff, so
Right.
we're saving some money.
Is our solar still in full
Yes.
phase now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We are.
So we're
we are-
receiving the funds from that also?
We are.
Okay,
We are.
very good.
So that is helping as well. So, so we're, that's why you're seeing a little bit of a difference there. Also, just we're just not getting all of the POs in right now that we normally would to make our purchases and expenditures out of M&O, just because we're not in full swing. So I do expect that to climb as we go throughout the year and return in person. As far as capital goes, we're right in line with where we typically are. We haven't really gotten into many of our capital projects yet. So those expenditures that you're seeing in there are just our normal year-over-year expenditures. So with that, budget balances are positive, we are in compliance, and there are no surprises to the best of my knowledge.
Awesome. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you, Aaron.
We get a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the financial report as submitted.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries. And action item B is approval of the award contractor for the septic decommissioning project. And
Yes, I have Missy from Sunny Path Associates on the line to assist with any questions that might come up today. I understand that there has been some questions about the process and the bids that came in. So I will let her chime in here in a moment if needed. We did go out for an IFB that was issued on July 30th of this year. We also had a pre-bid conference on August 6th. That was mandatory, where we required any contractors that had interest and thought that they would like to bid needed to come on site and do a walkthrough of the project along with our engineer was there. Jim Missel was there, Missy was there, and I was there as well. We only received 2 bids, which isn't completely untypical for our district. A lot of times we don't see a ton of interest in our projects just because of our location. We are beginning to see more interest, but people just, they think Wickenburg is so far. So it is a unique project as well. Due diligence was completed by both Missy as well as Wilson Engineering. Peterson's bid was in line with an estimate that Wilson gave us prior to the bids coming in. We had asked Wilson, can you give us a ballpark of where you think, based upon industry standards, projects like ours that you're seeing, where you think this project should come in at, just so we had a kind of an idea, so we would know when we were opening those what we were looking at. So theirs was really close to the estimate that Wilson had. Calls were also made to contractors that didn't bid, just to inquire why. You know, typically there's other contractors that would bid on these type of projects, and so Missy did reach out to some of those to kind of find out what was going on and why they didn't bid. And I will actually let her speak a little bit as to what she discovered with some of those phone calls, if she's there.
I am here. Thank you, Erin. It's really hard to follow up on with this project conversation after such a lengthy conversation about sports and football. I'm really I was really excited listening to that. So I can hear, and Erin spoke really lengthy and kind of the overall process. Wilson Engineers back in June did compile an estimate that gave us 30%, overage and 30% under what they thought based on market conditions, given some of the COVID and some of the supply chain impacts. And so when we only received the 2 bids, and there were only 5 contractors in attendance at the mandatory pre-bid conference, we talked to some contractors that do a lot of SFC work that have been interested in Wickenburg projects in the past. And there was a culmination of reasons why. It was due to timing, it was due to the location, and one of the contractors said he just didn't really feel comfortable with some of the subcontractors with some of the site utilities work. So they were all reasonable reasons as to why they weren't, submitting on this particular project. So when the bids were received, there was obviously a significant variance between the apparent low bidder and the, high bidder. And so between Wilson and myself, we did request clarification from Paul Peterson Construction related to breaking out some of that cost into the mobilization, the decommissioning of the septic tank, the wetland systems decommissioning, and then the demolition of the distribution boxes. And with that clarification, again, it was in line with their lower 30% estimate, and all of their licenses, the subcontractor licenses and everything else was in accordance with the requirements of the invitation for bid.
Okay.
So,
Did I lose you?
yeah,
No.
no.
We're here.
We're here. They're
No.
processing, Missy.
Yeah, just processing.
Okay, I know that was a lot to process, but sometimes we're having some hard time. There was some blanking out there, and I'm like, oh no, where did I lose you if I did?
Oh, no, everything was perfect. Question I have is on item 2, the alternate bypass pumping operations. And I know you're not the bidder and you're not the contractor and any of that, but that's such a big swing the other way from one contractor to the other. Is there any real reason why that should or could happen?
So I forgot my 2 disclosures that I should have started with. Number 1, this is all based on my expertise as a public procurement consultant, so I'm not an attorney and I'm not an engineer, right? But in terms of working with Wilson Engineers, they believe that the other contractor probably lumped some of those decommissioning of the septic tank and the wetlands together in with their base bid. in the assumption that the bypass operations are going to have to occur. Because they did ask that question as a part of when there was a period for asking questions while the solicitation was on the street. And because this is an SFB project, the recommendation is to add, to award the ad all because of the scheduling, and there needs to be the synchronicity of documents and application information and things that need to occur in order for it to happen during the fall break, which is what we're all trying to target. But at worst case scenario, it would be at winter break, so that at the start of the new calendar year, the project will be completed. It will be substantially completed so that it wouldn't be impacting students and or use of any of the facilities.
Okay. Anybody else have a question for her?
No, because I had the same question you did.
Yeah, I mean, other than cost, I did have a question for Aaron. I remember last year we had something on the agenda about the septic tank. What was that?
Well, this is kind of a phase 2 of the project. This project has been, oh, did you have something, Missy?
No, I said, oh, yeah. The project has been a continuation for years and years,
Yes,
right?
yes, this is considered an SFB legacy project, and it began, I either want to say just before I began with the district or when I first did. So it's been going on since at least 2015. What you saw before was when we connected to the city sewer system. So that was kind of our phase 1, because we used to have the wetlands. We connected to the city sewer system. Now we need to go back and decommission those tanks.
Okay.
So this is the phase 2.
So that was probably the lift station project.
Right.
That needed to happen before we could do this part, to
Right.
finalize it.
Okay, I just remember that there was something to do with the septic tank in the wetlands last year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is a continuation, and hopefully the end.
And hopefully the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
This should be the final piece.
Yeah, just don't mess up the wetlands, or you'll be doing other things.
Right.
The question
No,
I,
no, that was made abundantly clear.
question I had was, on our approval of this, bid, is also on contingent upon the SFB funding.
Correct. It will go to the SFB at their October meeting. So we wanted to, the process is typically, it's supposed to be, our board approves that we will accept this bid. Then it goes to the SFB and it will go through their governing board process to approve the funding of it. If they don't approve the funding of it, it's null and void. So
Yeah,
it has
well,
to have the SFB
And
funding.
when's their meeting?
Their meeting is beginning of October. I can't remember the date. Do you know, Missy, off the top of your head?
It's the 7th of October.
7th of October.
So if it was not approved at that meeting, then this bid would be canceled.
I mean, because that's bringing it right up to.
Right.
The fall break.
Right, right. And so our two options are either, to try, part of the timing with the fall break or winter break is we're gonna have to shut down not just bathrooms, but all water supply to buildings during phases of this project. So what we're trying to aim for is trying to do and we'll be able to do it in sections. We have like the north side and the south side of the campus that they'll be able to do that on. But we have 12-month employees that are there even over fall break. So we wanted to try to limit the impact of that as much as possible. So we've gotten really good at working remotely, and
So it's still a little
Yeah.
more than decommissioning then, because it sounded like, we had already transferred over to the other part.
Right.
To the city, town.
Yes. There's just still some lines that are going that they need to cap.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And
And those manholes too.
Right. And manholes have to be
Got
filled
it.
and those kinds of things.
does it affect Vulture Peak at all?
No.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Good.
Okay.
Do you have anything else, Jim, that you wanted to add?
Just so you know, in October, if Hoover gets that, we see that bid, we get it approved with SFB, they will start with the wetlands and take care of that first. That will be probably the first major part of it they will do. The 8 septic tanks that they've got to put slurry in, they're not gonna be able to do those all because some of them were hooked into the main system and they're gonna have to shut it down. But some of them they can do over by the gym. That one they could do separately. What they're gonna have to do though, most of the guys that came back around to look at it, they're gonna have to put cameras down those septic tanks to see how they're situated, because it doesn't show very well in the blueprints. So they're gonna put a camera down and look at it and see what the slurry is gonna be. Some of them that you will see, the one right next to the web center, that's a tough one to do. And that one there, and up by the media center, there's some sidewalks that we're gonna have to replace, which doesn't hurt my feeling. The one right there by the media center where the drama was using, they got paint all over it, so we'll have a new sidewalk. So we'll get some stuff out of this.
And Jim, I want to thank you for all your work on this, and also, I do want to thank you for not bringing your projects in tonight.
It's all right. I was gonna bring it in and show you the septic tanks.
Oh.
And how it's gonna be built.
Uh-huh. All right, anything else?
Good.
We can get a motion?
Okay, where's my paper?
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the award of the IFB number 213522 to Paul R. Peterson Construction Incorporated as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder in the amount of $273,593, which includes all bonds, required taxes, and the alternate bypass cost contingent upon the SFB funding approval.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Missy.
Thank you, Missy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
You as
Come-
well.
You too.
Come to a football game, Missy.
I absolutely will. Can't wait to see the schedule.
All right,
Thanks
item,
again. Bye-bye.
oh, bye now,
Bye.
thank you. Item C, action item, governing board to discuss and may consider action to approve the Arizona School Boards Association Draft 2021 political agenda. So let me get to that.
Is Ron going? Do we have a delegate going? Is it Ron?
He's
Yeah.
the delegate.
Ron's going
I
to
was
this.
the-
And if I can't go, Randy's got it, so.
When is that? Can't make it now. Oh.
So, did somebody want to speak to this? I mean, we already had the delegates set up, but did you want to talk
There's
on this?
there's a couple things I wanted to mention in particular that, let me get to it, and I'll give it to you. Go over to, if it's the section 3, improve outcomes for all students. The one about, where was it? Well, I thought I had it here. It was the one about the, doing away with the testing for next spring. Isn't that on here?
Okay, the one that was in reference
Maybe it's,
to
okay,
labeling the
it's in the
schools?
COVID response. Is the one.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's at the
COVID
end,
response,
right?
excuse me. It
Five,
says
number five.
To suspend state standardized testing requirements for the school year 2021. You know, I would think that we would want them to do the test, just don't have any consequences out of the test, just so that we could see, you know, kind of what the students have done with that, you know, last quarter and then, the first quarter this year, you know, maybe more virtually, whatever they're doing, just to see where that comes out. Their I think, thought on this is that, you know, you can't grade schools. You know, they don't want them grading schools. But I would think that we'd want to go ahead and do the testing, just don't grade schools on the results of the test. So you have the data to know where you stand, you know? I don't know. That's just my thought on that.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I mean, that's reasonable. I mean, it gives people an idea where they're at. I think it'd just be kind of, as
Well,
long as they
that's what
don't
they're
count it
asking.
for anything.
Yeah, that's what I
it's gonna
said.
be pretty
Just the
convoluted.
idea is just don't grade the schools on it.
Well, that's what they're saying.
Huh?
Suspend
No.
it.
They said don't take the
No,
test.
they're
They
saying don't
suspend
test.
state
Saying don't test.
standardized testing.
Yeah.
To allow the teachers to have a more engaging curriculum, to keep the students more engaged, rather than teaching everything to the tests.
Well, rather than preparing them for standardized testing, they want to engage them in curriculum.
Right.
But I don't see any reason why we can't prepare them.
Another
for-
measure to where, where they are.
Right.
I don't know. That's just the way it seems to me that it would make sense to do it that way.
Well, and I think the way that it's written, we as a school board either approve and go with it or we don't. There's no.
What we're kind of giving Ron direction how we want
But I
him to
can,
vote.
at the meeting, I can argue against this.
So you want them to continue it then?
I think we should do the test and just don't do the,
Oh, I see.
don't grade the schools on it.
Okay.
So you have.
Just go ahead, do the test, but don't have any consequences
Yeah,
for it.
Right.
yeah, do the test, but that way you have a measure of, progress or whatever outside of what the Galileo or what other assessments that we do internally.
I see.
And just don't grade schools, not gonna, no harm to anybody. But, what they are advocating here, just don't do tests at all. So, anyway, that's just my opinion. I wanted to bring that up and see where you stand and, and give me something.
Well, I agree with that. It's not gonna hurt anything. It's just it could add value,
Yeah.
you know.
And their explanation says that, due to the high stakes of a standardized test,
But some of it says there too, to allow the instructors to focus on the changes that they've gone through in the distance learning
Yeah.
and engage curriculum. So
Yeah, but
that standardized testing is going to take away from them some of the changes they have been going through already to do this long distance
it shouldn't.
distance learning.
And for what it's worth, this is to decide what ASBA then tries to enforce that legislation.
Right.
Correct.
So,
Right.
how many of the things on last year's agenda
Most
got?
of the last year's agenda are repeated right here.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
It
it
doesn't happen.
It doesn't change that much, but the COVID section is brand new
Right.
to everything else. So, anyway, that's just, and that is, what date is it? October?
October 17th, I think is what it said.
October 17th, yeah.
Well, I'm with you on that one, Ron.
Okay, and that's, other than that, there's some onesie-twosie things, but nothing real particular. And I talked to Dr. Medini about a couple of these already, so. So anyway,
Is that?
that's it.
So I would say, go ahead and argue against it.
Yeah, at least you
Yeah.
can bring it up at the.
Yeah, that's the point.
Well,
Yeah.
that way they were gonna know you were there.
They'll know I was there.
That's right.
Right.
All right, so I guess we need a motion now.
I move to adjourn? Oh, no.
Not quite, almost.
Not yet.
No, there's a motion on this discussion we just had.
Well, I don't think we want to. Well, I guess.
We'd have to say with changes.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion to approve the Arizona School Board Association's ASBA Draft 2020 Political Agenda with modifications as discussed by the board and direct the district's delegate to the ASBA Delegate Assembly to represent our determined position.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Let's see, items for future agendas. Announcements, we got the calendar. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn.
And Sandy,
I'll make
you're
a
up.
motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, that was rotten.
He did
That
that
was
on purpose.
Sandy, do you want a second?
No.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. We are adjourned. at 8:09.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay, did,
Oh.